Chapter 121 I am Chen Zichuan. You are Fa Xiaoji. It's really troublesome to strategize or something. And I don't know if Zijian got my two friends back? Chen Shi saw that Fa Zhang did not speak. He smiled. He knew very well how much shock this victory would shock the people of the world, and how much fame would bring him. At least after this time he stood in front of Zun Yu, Chen Kun, and other noble sons and did not fall behind at all. In this era, he has blood, ability, and origin. The distinction between the division of the family and the direct line in troubled times is not very obvious. When there is a bloodline, the comparison is the ability. After April, under Chen Shi's plan, Liu Bei has the strength to compare with the princes of the world, and Chen Shi's identity will also rise, and it is still possible to look back and despise Chen Kun. You still have two friends. Fa Zheng came back to his senses instantly. Who doesn't have one or two friends? You don't. Chen Shi glanced at Fa Zheng with contempt and asked, Guo Fengxiao, the prodigal son, also has a good relationship with Shi Jizai, Zun Wenruo, Zun Gongda, Cheng Zhongda, and a few friends. I can't have two or three. Fa Zheng cannot know that everyone has one or two confidants. What he was entangled in was that Chen Shi's friend was over. Wouldn't his future be even more bleak? What is a friend? A friend is a raccoon dog, that is, a guy who can get along with a group of guys of a similar level. That is to say, all those who can be friends with Guizhou are a group of guys who are similar to Guizhou's level. Even if there is something inferior to Guizhou, they will surpass Guizhou in other places. Otherwise it is impossible to get along. Now Chen Shi said that he was going to bring his friends over. Fa Zheng felt that his whole person was dark. There were too many ruthless people on it. Where was his first day? As for the ability of the two who would come in the future, Fa Zheng already had a rough estimate in his heart. Looking at Chen Shi's degree, it is estimated that the role that came was likely to be a guy of Guizhou's level. Guizhou's calculation divided the yellow turban into 3 major waves, and the 3 major waves were divided into many small groups, and these small groups were the basis of Zongbia's snowball, and the snowball became bigger and bigger, and in the end, even if he met the main force of the yellow turbans, he became a snowball of goods, and he was powerless to stop it. Although Guizhou did not expect Chen Shi to snowball the yellow turbans in this way, it was always the right choice to separate the yellow turbans. Otherwise it would be difficult for more than 1 million yellow turbans to gather together. Xiaoji can rest assured, each of us will take you for a while. You have to win the strengths of several families, and then surpass us. We people are basically fixed. There is not much room for growth. You are still young. The future belongs to you. Chen Shi's back was bathed in the morning light, stretched out his hand to press Fa Zheng's shoulder, and said with a solemn face. At this moment, Fa Zheng's chest burned with confidence, his eyes lit up, and Guizhou who hung him all day long. Chen Shi always soothed his fragile heart like this. Fa Zheng once again established confidence and decided to win the strengths of several families, work hard, and not waste Chen Shi's hard work. Okay, Xiaoji, you keep working hard. I'll go see if the grain, seeds, and tools sent by Ziyang are enough. The cattle from the north, Zhong Shiping, and the two of them can't actually do a plow ox. It's really troublesome to teach people to teach this kind of thing like the ring on the nose. Jiangdong is really rich, and it can actually buy so much grain. Chen Shi patted Fa Zheng on the shoulder, and then said helplessly. In Chen Shi's opinion, Su Shuang and the others are weak. Isn't it normal for a cow to wear a rope on its nose? How to get a bunch of cows from the north without wearing ropes? Do you want to be so pitted, and you have to come and wear them again? It's really troublesome. You don't know that when you come back, you have to plant in the summer. You want cattle to farm, not cows to eat. More than 3,000 fat and strong cows don't wear ropes how to plow the fields. Drag the cow's head. Do you think you are Shu Chu? What power do you have to use a cow? From this point of view, the Lu family is still worry-free. There has been no grain delivered before, and when it is really about to be used, the Lu family's ships of grain have been transported, and they have never stopped, and the price is high quality and inexpensive, 150 yuan a stone of rice. The price is the same as Taishan corn. In this case, Chen Shi no longer has scruples, and the business transaction with the Lu family is not considered to take advantage of the other party. As for Dao Qian's strategic investment, it is still less used, and doing it yourself is the king. How to say that the current Liu Xuanda is also a prince under more than 2 million people, and it is not good to rely on others all the time. There is no upper limit to collect grain, how much we want, exchange books for grain. Liu Bei's bold atmosphere made the Lu family very satisfied, and directly handed over 3,000 books to the Lu family, without saying the price, just looking at the grain transport. The Lu family is very satisfied with this kind of trust, naturally unwilling to live up to Liu Bei's loyalty, vigorously collect grain in Jiangnan, Jingyang, and Yuzhou, and the fame of the 5 major families in Jiangdong is not blown. Under the huge stimulation of exchanging books for grain, the families in the south have taken out their family foundations one by one, and they are not short of food. Ha! So Zichuan bought Chenyo not for eating? Fa Zheng heard Chen Shi's words, came back to his senses and asked quickly. Do you think I need that to eat beef? Chen Shi rolled his eyes and said, didn't I buy cattle to farm? Can cattle in the north plow the fields? Fa Zhang asked with a strange expression. If the cattle in the north can cultivate the fields, then the cattle will not only be worth about 3,000 yuan. You must know that each of the cattle in the inner county has been sold for 20,000 yuan, and no one cares about killing cattle and eating meat in the border county. You go to the inner county to kill a cattle and try to see if others will fight with you. Put away your eyes. I'm Chen Zichuan, you are Fa Xiaoji. You can look at everything with suspicion for us, but don't be surprised. Even if you don't know, you can ask in private, but you must be wise enough in front of people. If the strategist is panicked, who will the general rely on? Besides, when necessary, there is no way to be inscrutable. Don't shake the morale of the army. Chen Shi glanced at Fa Zhang squintingly, then slowly turned his head and continued to instill Fa Zhang. You are Chen Zichuan. Fa Zhang said with a straight face. It's enough for you to say this one directly. Forget about the others. Let's go. Chen Shi glanced at Fa Zhang and said in his heart, it hasn't reached that time. He is still too young. Maybe Zhong Xuangao is scolding himself now? If I were 30 years old and could call myself an old man, I would be able to say that sentence when necessary after this time, but I shouldn't have that kind of sharpness at that time. At the same time, Liu Bei had already received a complete battle report, and Cao Cao, who was about the same distance away, also received the same battle report. Chen Zichuan led 30,000 Taishan soldiers to fight 300,000 Yellow Turbans in Zhangqiu, defeated the Yellow Turbans in one battle, chased hundreds of miles with their tails, defeated Chen Bei, Fuyun, and Hu Qian, killed 50,000 enemies, captured millions, and had almost no losses on his side. Chapter 122 Sacrificing his life to take the Italian leader. Cao Cao was directly frightened when he saw this battle report, and Liu Bei's surprise was completely different. Cao Cao was frightened, and then stopped the original Taishan strategy plan as soon as possible, and did not understand how Chen Shi basically captured more than 1 million Yellow Turbans within a month. Cao Cao would never go to Mount Tai's attention again, because it was too dangerous. After reading the information, Liu Yi was speechless. Didn't this guy say that his military strategy was more scumbag? Is this a manifestation of scum? If you scum, will others still be alive? Although more than 1 million Yellow Turbans have Guo Fengxiao's arrangement, you are too easy to fight. You can actually catch up with Xie Gang after the fight, and you have completed all the strategic goals, killed all the disobedient goods, and the new army has been selected. Xiang, what do you think? Liu Bei was a little overexcited. 2 million Yellow Turbans came out of Qingju, and the nearby princes, including Yuan Shao, felt a little too much pressure. But they didn't expect that Chen Shi only took more than half a month to completely level the Yellow Turbans, and took 30% of Qingju without bloodshed, as well as more than 1 million Yellow Turban prisoners. The famous generals of ancient times, the sages, are just like this. Liu Yi smiled bitterly and said, Liu Yi can no longer find an adjective. This person's performance is to go against the sky. Ha ha ha, I think so too. Liu Bei said proudly. By the way, Zichuan wrote that he was going to the Jizhou border to shout and cheer. What do Xiang think of this method? It's to show off military might, and by the way, put pressure on Yuan Benchu, so that he can get acquainted with the Zhen family and abandon the Zhen family. After all, now the Mi family's attack on the Zhen family has begun, and there will be results soon. Zichuan probably wants to complete these things quickly. After all, even if he can't catch up with the marriage, he will come back as soon as possible. After all, Zichuan seems to be indifferent, but he is very good to his family, Chen Lan, and he are friends in adversity. Liu Yi hinted that in this case, it is necessary to give Chen Lan a background. Liu Bei understood Liu Yi's hint, thought for a while and said, it is most suitable to go to the Chen family in Yingchuan and let the Chen family give Chen Lan a background. Liu Yi nodded. This is indeed very suitable, and it is not very difficult for the Chen family to accept it. After all, Chen Shi's current performance is already worthy of the Chen family's side attention. Okay, I'll go to repair a letter to the Chen family. Presumably the Chen family will give Chen Lan the status of a concubine. As for the legitimate daughter, it is impossible. Liu Yi thought for a while and said, each of the legitimate daughters of the family must be recorded. As for the concubine woman compared to the high-ranking family itself is the life of dowry. There is nothing to say. Even if the Chen family is willing to bet on Chen Shi, Chen Lan's identity cannot become a legitimate daughter, unless the Chen family is willing to offend the Fan family. But the marriage certificate has been issued, the Chen family. The Fan family cannot afford to lose people. Is the thing mentioned in Zichuan's letter ready? As for what he said, put the reins on the nose of the cattle and ordered Su Shuang and the two to try. If we can do it in the future, we will not be short of cattle. Liu Bei said with joy on his face. In his memory, Chen Shi has always been targeted and will not play with those virtual things. When a letter came before, Zhong Shiping and the two of them were ordered to try, and I think if it can be done, someone will report it soon. Liu Yi also smiled. Farming is the most important thing in this era. Even if the economy collapses, as long as the land can still be produced, then the stability of the world can still be maintained. On the other side, Zong Ba was righteously persuading his yellow turbans. Marshal, you will definitely be able to lead us to successfully break through. Under your leadership we have attacked several tension points. We will definitely successfully break away from Mount Tai and return to Qingju. A yellow turban who fanatically believed in Zong Ba heard that Zong Ba planned to kill himself to become a benevolent person to find a way to survive for the yellow turbans, and without waiting for Zong Ba to finish speaking, he hinted that the secret son would come out to speak, and jumped out first. There is no way to survive in Qingju. 2 million yellow turbans are out of Qingju, and now there are more than 100,000 of us left. More than 1 million brothers are gone, starving to death, falling behind, being killed. Don't we yellow turbans want to live a good life? Zong Ba roared, and then stared at his team leaders with blood-red eyes. If you continue to escape, there is only a dead end. Chen Dashai has been killed, and I led you to flee everywhere and try to find a way out, but now there are too many enemies ahead, and we can't kill them. Zong Ba roared, do you know? We can only defeat that unit when we go back to Qingju, and that unit is not something we can deal with at all, and there is only one way to stay here and be surrounded by them. I don't understand this, but you can't die, Marshal. We can die, but the Marshal can't die. It was the Marshal who led us to escape from danger again and again, and also grabbed food, and every time we grabbed food, the Marshal was the last to eat. The Marshal must not die. A yellow turban knelt directly on the ground and knocked his head to the ground. Get up. Zong Ba grabbed the yellow turban's arm and dragged the other party abruptly. Zong Ba pulled the other party up, and then stared at the group of people who blocked him with blood-red eyes. Remember, I led you just to let the brothers have something to eat. We are thieves. Thieves for a day, thieves for life. No one wants to forgive us. This time General Liu Xuanda is unwilling to kill more, so he gave us a chance. Have you forgotten Changsha? How many brothers were killed even if they surrendered? And after this time, can we wait for such an opportunity? The yellow turbans present no longer spoke, and more than 100,000 yellow turbans were directly killed after surrendering in the Battle of Changsha, and the Han army did not accept the surrender of the thieves, and no one was willing to forgive the yellow turbans. This may be the last chance. I will exchange one person's life for you, and even the entire Qingju yellow turbans. I think it's worth it, it's worth it. The last two words Zong Ba almost roared, and then with a bitter smile on his face, although it's ridiculous, as long as I die, they are willing to take you in, so don't stop me. The yellow turbans are a thing of the past, and you are all good citizens. The entire camp of the yellow turbans was silent. Zong Ba and Taishan's transaction, all the yellow turbans were already known, and the great leader who led them, a man like the legendary Qiangong General Zhong Jiao, planned to use his life to exchange a way out for the yellow turbans. Zhong Jiao failed that year, and this time a hero came out of the yellow turbans, a big leader who was willing to kill for the sake of millions of yellow turbans. I'm leaving, you stay here. After I die, someone will come to take over the camp. Don't resist. Live a good life in the future. Don't live the life of a thief. Marry a wife. Plant a piece of land. Raise 3 or 2 children. Live a good life. They will give you the same treatment as ordinary people. Will not look down on you. General Qiangong, I have fulfilled your last dream. Please allow Xianjiao to embark on the return journey with you after death. After Zong Ba finished speaking, he turned around and slowly walked out of the camp. Lonely disappeared? CS figure is the elder who pulls down in the sunset. As Zong Ba stepped out of the camp gate, a yellow turban leader knelt down and cried, and then the entire yellow turban camp burst into crying. At the end of April 192, Xianjiao, the great commander of the yellow turban and a disciple of General Qiangong, sacrificed himself to become a benevolent person, accepted the yellow turban thieves in exchange for one person's death, and paved a road for the yellow turbans in the world with their own blood. Chapter 123. The army pressed Jizhou. Yo, isn't this the big boss? Chen Shi said with a teasing face when he saw Zong Ba walking into the tent, and Guanzhong and others were also smiling. Fortunately, I didn't lose my life. Zong Ba clenched his fists and said, well, I have asked Fa Zheng to prepare the coffin and the corpse, the sacrificial text, and prepare to bury your stand-in as a hero. Chen Shi said with a smile on his face. He started looking for a substitute half a month ago, and he couldn't really bury Zong Ba. Hey, the yellow turban is not easy either. Zong Ba pulled the yellow cloth wrapped around his head and threw it on several cases, sighed and said, the officials force the people to do it, so it's a good thing for me to do this. At least I won't harm them. Don't show up recently, turn white and grow a fat beard. In short, it's better not to appear before you can be recognized by others. Chen Shi said with a smile. The new commander of the yellow turban left the camp for the Taishan camp, and soon after, the soldiers of Taishan carried the coffin and sent the body of the stand-in, and sent it over with a large amount of food and water, and announced that he felt the temperament and righteousness of the great commander, and the yellow turbans in the world could come to Mount Tai to obtain a berth unless they were guilty, and the past was not to blame. It's done. Qingju will be our back garden in the future. As long as we can free up our hands, Qingju will be ours. Let's drink this cup. Chen-Shi took out the alcohol and poured a bowl of mash for each of the others, and poured a bowl of mash himself and said excitedly, "This is Sichuan's ability." Guan Yu drank more than 60 degrees of spirits in one gulp, and praised his stomach like fire. "Good wine." Zhong Fei took a big gulp, and then looked at the wine jar next to Chen-Shi's feet and said, "Okay, don't look at it. It's okay to drink this kind of wine occasionally. It's too wasteful of food. I can buy some for you when the food is enough in the future. Don't pay attention to it now." Chen-Shi said with a smile, and then ordered someone to send the wine jar back, which was used to disinfect. "Then I, Lao Zhong, will wait for the future." Zhong Fei was overjoyed. "The King Haiyanzhou border has been pacified, and I don't need to continue to lead these soldiers. Zilong, Zi obeys orders." Chen-Shi put down the wine bowl and said solemnly after everyone finished drinking the spirits in the bowl, "The last will be." Zhao Yun and Tai Shizi stood up and came out. "Order the two of you to bring your own troops. Select 10,000 yellow turbans, and garrison troops in Licheng to prevent Yuan Shao." He also asked Zilong to still control the Tunchen affairs of Qingyang. Chen-Shi handed the originally prepared orders to Zhao Yun and Tai Shizi respectively. "Yes." Zhao Yun and Tai Shizi replied loudly. "Zhongtai, you lead Botai, when Hu and the two of you in Qingju to help Qingju refugees settle in the fields. Accept refugees. Do not refuse those who come. If you don't know the place, go ask Zilong. The Tunchen soldiers are handed over to you to select yourself, no more than 50,000 yuan, and the local people will be treated equally." Chen-Shi handed over another volume of orders to Sun Guan, Sun Kang, and Wu Dun, and the internal affairs of Qingju were handed over to these three people to handle. As for anarchy, wait until after the summer harvest to deal with it. After all, food and clothing are the key at this time, and there is no point in eating anything without food. "Yes." The three of them stood up and bowed their hands and replied. "Yunchang, Ida, lead your troops to follow me north, and press Jizhou." Chen-Shi's eyes were shining, although this time was not enough to challenge Yuan Shao, but their power was enough to influence the situation in the world, especially now he is now with the power of great victory. The troops are pressing Jizhou, even Yuan Benchu has to weigh it. There are wolves in front and tigers in the back. If you are a little careless, once Chen-Shi participates in the war, Jizhou will be in danger of overturning at any time. You must know that Gongsun Zon is in a strategic, offensive posture at this time. "Yes." Guan Yu Zhong Fei got up and replied loudly. "Marshal, dare to ask me?" Zhong Ba saw that everyone had finished the task and he was fine, so he got up and asked. Xianzhou turned around to Feng Zhou, led 3,000 cavalry. "Once Cao Cao made any moves, don't be polite, directly attack Chen Liu, give him some color to see. We don't need to take care of Cao Cao's face now, and he won't be on the same road with us. Give him a little warning, let him not make trouble. Of course, if Cao Mingda doesn't do it, you just need to keep pressing." Chen-Shi gave Zhong Ba the last order. At least within this year, Zhong Ba had better not appear in Qingju. It would be too troublesome for the big leader not to die or anything. "Yes." Zhong Ba clasped his hands excitedly, and it sounded very good to suppress a prince. As for the barracks, drinking is not allowed, women are not allowed to enter. As long as you can win, it is not a big deal. This is completely different from the military regulations represented by some military orders, and it is very flexible. The next day, the army separated. Chen-Shi led Fei Zhang, Guan Yu, Zhong Fei, Zhao Yun Tai Shizi went north. If this lineup was placed in the future, when this group of people became famous all over the world, Yuan Shao would probably be frightened to death. Now, Yuan Shao did not know the situation, but the news of Chen-Shi's defeat of the Yellow Turban would soon spread throughout the Han dynasty. On the other hand, Hua Xiong has learned the unknown formation for more than 10 days, although he himself is very hard, and his soldiers are also very hard. But now Joshua has caught a group of ants and can put up a gossip yin and yang diagram on the yoke, and then there are clouds and light covering yin and yang points, and let Hua Xiong come to see that the angry Hua Xiong is about to wipe his neck, and he has not learned it until now. Hey, my dichotomy is not bad either. Joshua used grass roots to bring the ants together, and then formed them into 8 golden locks, and then turned into a skylock, and then pushed back to the 5 directions, and then changed the formation to become a big strangulation of yin and yang. How is it? Joshua turned his head and asked Li Yu, who was closing his eyes to recuperate. This kind of thing has no meaning at all, except that you can use it and circulate it. Li Yu didn't open his eyes and said indifferently, "Pour me a cup of tea." Joshua touched a white porcelain cup from the side, filled it with tea, and handed it to Li Yu. It is said that these white porcelain cups are all tributes. Originally Liu Bei ordered people to give them to Liu Xie, but at that time, Chang'an was in chaos. Hua Xiong happened to meet the team that sent tribute, and said that he was willing to help give it, so he kept it, and then carefully picked one out of it for Li Yu to use, and then let Li Yu use it all, like this pure crystallized non-absorbent white porcelain cup. Completely out of print. As for Li Yu, who has completely despised the imperial power now, what does a guy who already feels like he is about to die care about? In other words, it is not that he does not pay tribute to Liu Xie, and now he has not yet made her offering, let him use it first. However, Hua Xiong still secretly sent a letter to Chen Shi, asking him to quickly prepare a copy for Li Yu, not daring to tell Liu Bei. Liu Bei would definitely be furious if he knew about this kind of thing, but this kind of out-of-print new thing, Chen Shi would definitely have stock, ask him for a copy to give to Li Yu or pay tribute to Liu Xie to face. As for asking Li Yu to ask, Hua Xiong felt that he was also wrong. Chapter 124 Strategic Level Talent. Chen Shi led 20,000 infantry and cavalry towards the border of Jizhou and Qingzhou, and before arriving in Jizhou, Chen Shi found that it was already May, and his wedding date was estimated to be postponed. Hey, it's really difficult to end this troubled world. Chen Shi looked at the clouds in the sky. He had been using his spiritual talent, but now Chen Shi doesn't quite understand what his spiritual talent is, but he just has a general impression. After all, in history, 191 years of Mount Tai was a small harvest year, and under his blessing it became a good year. What he now hopes is that the good years of 192 years will become better with his blessing. Lu Jiang, a Taoist priest in linen robes, looked at the celestial phenomena curiously, although he could not see the stars in broad daylight. But as a rare master who was proficient in celestial phenomena, Zhuxiai found that the celestial phenomena in the north, that is, Mount Tai, and Qingzhou had changed. Who is so crazy, actually changing the celestial phenomena on a large scale for a long time? Let me do the math. Zhuxiai looked at the north and sighed first. It is not difficult to change the weather, but it is very difficult on a large scale. If you add a long time, it is directly changing the climate of the year. What's going on? Zhuxiai was dumbfounded after calculating for a while. The rain, the sunshine, and the wind did not change the overall time. Zhuxiai carefully observed the celestial phenomena of Mount Tai, and finally sighed. He was regarded as seeing a strong man, although he didn't understand how the other party did it. But they didn't change the overall climate, just adjusted the weather slightly in a certain way. The original harvest year was good, and then adjusted it slightly, so that the weather was more in line with the planting of grain. And the weather that was originally slightly out of tune instantly became smooth. Now the harvest year in the Qingzhou area of Mount Tai will probably be called the Great Harvest Year. How did this degree of climate change work? Zhuxiai stared in that direction curiously. It's probably the spiritual talent of some individuals, but I think the limit won't be too small. Let me do the math. What's going on with this seemingly powerful spiritual talent? As he spoke, Zhuxiai began a detailed deduction, gradually launching the spiritual talent of the person who changed the climate on a large scale. Spiritual power and talent naturally bless your own celestial advantages. Zhuxiai looked at the results of his deduction, and for the first time felt that there were more people in the Han dynasty, and what strange talents had appeared. In other words, this ability was completely uncontrollable, but it was also a very good strategic talent. After such a long time, he had found that his spiritual power was not a physical object, and he was barely sure that his spiritual power could change the effect of the weather on a large scale, but he was not sure whether it was purely for the good or suppress the bad celestial phenomena, and then one day it suddenly broke out. But no matter what it is, Chen Shi knows one thing, that is, his spiritual talent does not need to use spiritual power deliberately, but is having an impact on the surrounding situation all the time. From a certain situation, his talent is equivalent to passive skills, and Lu Su's is equivalent to active skills. However, whether it is purely a good change or suppressing bad celestial phenomena, it is of absolute importance to Chen Shi. As long as there is enough food in the past 2 years when the weather is good, even if the catastrophic celestial phenomena breaks out in 2 years, it will not have any impact. Anyway, history has recorded that there was no harvest at that time. Even if natural disasters are frequent, there is no impact, and disaster relief is needed. As long as the grain is stored at that time, it is not a problem to take out the grain. With such an idea, although Chen Shi was a little worried that his spiritual talent might cause catastrophic celestial phenomena, he did not have much fear. What is terrible about breaking the jar? Anyway, the drought has led to no harvest of particles. What can you do if you have locust plagues, floods, and typhoons all come? Isn't it still no harvest? Chen Shi looked helplessly at the letter sent from the rear. Li Yu went a little too far. How to say that it was also a tribute, too blatant. But at this time he still needed to wipe Li Yu's buttocks. After all, now his identity is his friend. What's wrong with the military division? Zhao Yun saw that Chen Shi was a little unhappy and asked. Zijian is too slow to do things, and he has not yet paid tribute to his majesty, but it is also related to the killing of Dong Zhuo's remnants. Chen Shi casually found an explanation and said, "Oh, I haven't seen Zijian again since November last year, and I don't know how he has been doing recently, but since the military division has made arrangements, there will definitely be no mistakes." Zhao Yun smiled and comforted Chen Shi, and he also noticed that Chen Shi had begun to be a little irritable since he found out that he couldn't make it to the wedding date. Forget it, don't care about him, although I didn't explain it clearly at the time, but since he has already brought those two guys out, he must know what I want to do with their intelligence. Chen Shi smiled. He didn't explain it clearly to Hua Xiong at the beginning, but with Jioshu and Li Yu there, they should be clear about what they wanted to express. On the other hand, Hua Xiong has already handed over the documents to Chang'an, as the first prince to come to pay tribute after the end of Dongzhuo's rebellion, and he also has the status of a clan member of the Han family, which makes the young Liu Xie feel very satisfied. The world of the Han family is still very stable, and Dongzhuo's guy is going against the sky, and now he has been overturned by my courtiers. And the world has returned to normal again. Naturally, this kind of thing that can show the majesty of the Han dynasty has just escaped from Dongzhuo's clutches, and Liu Xie, who thinks he is in power, will definitely not let it go. It was ordered that Hua Xiong's escort team be stationed at Chang'an Station, and the rest of the people withdrew 30 miles, then bathed and changed clothes, burned incense and prayed, and after 9 days, they were allowed to face the saint. Military Division, Mr. Jiao, please do not enter and exit the post station in the past few days. Just tell Xiong directly if you need anything. After Hua Xiong sent Li Yu and Jioshu into Chang'an Station, he said a little uneasy. We know better than you what we should do, but it's you, and I probably don't understand what Chen Zichuan asked you to come to Chang'an for. Jioshu glanced at Hua Xiong contemptuously. Li Yu is basically unwilling to pay attention to others now, and most of the time he is closing his eyes to recuperate, or waiting for death, but fortunately, before Hua Xiong left, he was worried that Jioshu or Li Yu would be injured, so he sent 10 doctors to Hua Xiong to bring it, which made Li Yu not fall. You! Hua Xiong was a little indignant, and then took a deep breath. He didn't want to be ashamed in front of Li Yu. I also asked the military advisor to teach me. After you go and send the tribute and grain, you only need to ask for one thing, that is, to ask your majesty to bend down to Mount Tai. Of course, this matter is impossible to pass, you just need to say it. Chen Zichuan is just to block other people's mouths. Li Yu's eyes were too lazy to open. If you don't understand, just do it, whether it's Chen Zichuan or Wen Yu, your move this time will win you a good official position. But after doing this, leave as soon as possible, although Lu Bu is strong, but he can't stand Li Ji and Guasai, our time is limited. Jioshu saw that Hua Xiong's face was confused, so he didn't explain much, but just told him the benefits and the situation afterwards, and Hua Xiong would naturally understand what to do. Chapter 125 Promise her a lifetime of glory. Hua Xiong didn't ask much, he knew very well that the wisdom of these two was far beyond his own, and Li Yu also said so naturally he would not harm him. Then I'll go burn incense and pray. Since I'm here, it's better not to challenge the majesty of the Son of Heaven. Military strategist, rest for now. If you need it, please send someone to tell me, and I will not dare to slacken. Seeing that Li Yu did not speak, Hua Xiong bowed and slowly withdrew. I don't know how you came out in the first place. These people really respect you. Jioshu looked at Hua Xiong, who was slowly withdrawing, and said with some emotion that the Shiliang soldier Dong Zhongying was gone, but these former generals still obeyed Li Yu's orders. Li Yu didn't speak, but the corners of his mouth were slightly drawn, although he looked away at Dong Zhongying, but this group of Shiliang fierce generals brought out by him, each of them can be regarded as tiger and wolf generals, righteous people, but without him, it is estimated that this kind of righteousness and generosity will not last long. After all, the background is too low, the pattern, and the vision have imprisoned their ability. When he orders someone to find out who gave Zhongying incense or cried a funeral, whether it is true or not, after all, Zhongying also promoted a lot of people at that time, as long as those who did so, they were all recorded. Li Yu turned his head to Jioshu and said, although he didn't have much hope, after all, Dongzhuo's actions in Chang'an were really unpopular, or directly brutal and unkind. When I entered Chang'an, I sent someone to explore. After all, I still have some dark lines in Chang'an. The news has arrived, the incense is not there, the crying and mourning have been imprisoned, and they will be executed in the near future. Jioshu said calmly. Went to jail? Is it Cai Boji? Li Yu reacted for the first time, probably only him. Zhongying treats him very well. As a generation of great Confucianism, only his ethics will let him do this kind of thing. Does he still have children at home who need to be taken care of? Thinking about his identity, even if Wang Zisha executes him, he will not kill the whole family. Let Hua Xiong take a look, and move the Sei family away if necessary. There is only one daughter, Shu to Hedong Wei Jiao Wei Zhong Dao, but whether it is a 3-year mourning period, or sending it to Hedong Wei's family to marry first, it is not very appropriate. Jioshu explained the situation to Li Yu that the legitimate daughters of the aristocratic families in this era were basically 18 or 19 years old when they got married, and the current Xia Yang was not suitable in any way. When the time comes, let Hua Xiong move the Xia family away and promise her a lifetime of glory. Jiao Wen, and you did it? Li Ayu's eyes opened, and he said with a flashing light, I know you are good at protecting yourself, but let me ask you, Zhongying treats you well. I won't say anything if you don't come up with a plan. Zhongying belongs to her own sin. I have nothing to say, but now that someone is crying for him, and I have leisure, I will support his descendants, and you her don't want to dodge. Okay, what can she do with her lifelong glory? These things are just backhand for us. But when you, remember, I will only provide her with implicit protection. She chooses anyone has nothing to do with me, and I will not interfere with her every move. Jioshu had no choice but to agree, but he also made it clear that he would only give her implicit protection and would not pay attention to her choices. Sure. Li Ayu closed his eyes and spat out a word, and did not continue to force Jioshu, and the fate of the eldest lady of the Xiai family has since been decided. With these two mountains, the glory of a lifetime has fallen into his arms. 10 days later, in Weiyang Palace, Liu Xie sat on a high dragon chair, looking down at the courtiers who bowed to him, looking at Hua Xiong who paid tribute to the food he needed most, very satisfied. As for the past of Sisui Pass, those who knew it now selectively forgot. There is no need to offend a prince, not to mention that this prince is still a relative of the Han family, and he has just defeated the Yellow Turban in Qingju. Hua Xiong's presentation was very short, except for the white porcelain cup that Chen Qi resent shocked the entire court. The others were more Yang Biao with his Yang family and the new three dukes Wang Yun. As for Hua Xiong's suggestion to ask the Han Emperor to move Mount Tai or something, no one cared from top to bottom. If it weren't for those tributes, and Liu Bei's loyalty, these people would have sprayed. Looks disappointed? Jioshu said with a smile on his face. I'm disappointed. This is the Han court? After all, Hua Xiong was captured when he was at Sisui Pass, and when he was later promoted to a knighthood and qualified to go to the early court, Hua Xiong was no longer there. So the early court of the Han court was very novel to Hua Xiong, and after he went, he found that he was greatly disappointed. Just bring the angels. These official titles are what Chen Zichuan wants. I didn't expect that he was less than the year of double 10 and had already caught a high title, but sweeping away the millions of yellow turbans was indeed a great achievement for the Han dynasty. In this world, in the eyes of the Han emperor, if it weren't for the yellow turbans, he wouldn't have to suffer so many sins at all. Jioshu said with a smile. The title of the Han dynasty is still difficult to fish. If it weren't for Chen Qi's merits this time are too shocking, there would be no title of the Marquis of Guanay. Of course, this is too sad for Chen Qi. It is really miserable enough that he didn't get a Marquis in the end with so much effort. In other words, Liu Bei was given a pavilion Marquis position, and sure enough, beating the Yellow Turban is a happy thing to see in the Han court. Let's set off tomorrow. The Shiliang army will come back soon, and the Han dynasty will be shrouded in shadows again. Jioshu sighed and said, the original glory and prosperity are gone, leaving only pain, and I don't know who will clean up this mess in the end, and who the world belongs to. Early the next morning, Hua Xiong visited the Ministry of Rites and then took a detour out of the city. This is Cai Zhonglang's home? Hua Xiong looked at a mansion where almost everyone took a detour, and the walls and the ground were in disarray. Knock on the door. Li Ayu frowned and said it was inconvenient for him to haunt Chang'an, but Cao Jiao became like this, turned his head and glared at Jioshu, only to see Jioshu looking out the window indifferently and closing the car door again. Bell. Hua Xiong jumped off his horse, ignored the mess around him, and knocked on the door directly. After a long time, a girl dressed in plain white filial piety opened the front door, looked out the door, and whispered, the Zhai family is unfortunate, only the female family is left, and you cannot invite you to enter without permission, and please don't blame the guests. Zijian, help me get out of the car. Li Ayu leaned out and said, line up in all directions, be on guard, and block the entire street. Hua Xiong said unceremoniously. Hua Xiong was very incomprehensible that Li Ayu was risking his way out of the carriage here. Hua Xiong helped Li Ayu out of the carriage, and then let go of Li Ayu, only to see Li Ayu walking to the door of the same mansion. The temperament of being in a high position for many years and holding the power of life and death dissipated, and said to the maid, let Zhao Ji take away the music classic compiled by Bo Jie, as well as his favorite Jiao Wei Qin, and the unfinished books before his death. Chang'an can't stay. After a while, Xia Yang, whose eyes were slightly swollen, came over wearing a filial piety robe and bowed to Li Ruiying. Zhao Ji has seen her uncle. Chapter 126. I regret it at the beginning. Do you know who I am? Li Ayu looked at Xia Yang in surprise. I don't know, but at this time, in addition to my father's best friends, there are probably only righteous men who have been favored by my father. No matter which one is an important help to Yang now. Xia Yang, whose eyes were slightly red, shook his head and said, Fei Boji once said that there is a woman who is talented and beautiful, but not bad. Are you willing to go to Mount Tai with me? Chang'an can no longer stay. The disaster is coming. As for the Hudong Wei family, when you mourn for 3 years, I will give you a dowry as an elder. Are you willing to go to Mount Tai with me? Li Ayu said with a gentle face. He was not familiar with Xiai Boji, but since he was crying for Dong Zhuo, then it was necessary for him to take care of Se Yong's wife and children. This is Li Yu's way of life. I would like to go to Mount Tai with my uncle. Ha Yang sighed and said, she had already seen that no matter what she said, the other party would forcibly take her out of Chang'an. The bearing of this person was already very telling. In this case, it was still good to leave some affection. After experiencing the vicissitudes of the world, the warmth and coldness of human feelings, Se Yang was no longer the girl who knew nothing except books. Okay, I'm Li Yu, Li Wenru from Yongju. You can call me Uncle Li. This person's surname is Hua, Mingxiong, Zijian. After arriving at Mount Tai, you can find us if you need anything, and when you will also come out. Li Yu turned his head and shouted at the carriage, and Jioshu also walked out helplessly, his clothes fluttering like a Confucian scholar. I am Jiao Wenhe. Jioshu clasped his hands and stopped talking. If Miss Xie doesn't think the sergeant is clumsy, I can help move out all the items Miss Xie needs. Seeing that Li Yu finished talking, Hua Xiong stepped forward with his fists clenched, ready to help. There is no need for this, as Uncle Li said. Yang only needs to carry those 3 things. Sai Yang shook his head, and then slowly retreated. Miss. After walking home, Sai Yang's maid looked at Sai Yang eagerly, and without saying anything else, she called out. Everything was unspoken. Shook his head slightly to signal that his maid didn't have to be like this. Se Yong cried that Dongzhuo was not only grateful for the kindness of knowing the favor, but also to give the Han family a step, but unfortunately the people didn't understand. As for the court, Wang Yun, Yang Biao and others knew everything but were too lazy to take care of a 17-year-old woman, because there was no value, and people went to tea and cool tea. It is precisely because of the ignorance of the people that Cai Yang will be trapped in Chang'an and cannot get out. If he can leave Chang'an, according to Sai Yong's fame, Se Yang can eat in any family, but unfortunately the current situation is trapped in Chang'an. Let's go, pack up and go to Mount Tai. I heard that it is Liu Xuander's place, and most of the books we lost in Chang'an were collected by Liu Xuander on behalf of Liu Xuander. I heard people say that Liu Xuander is benevolent and righteous. I think there is such a thing. When we arrive at Mount Tai, Liu Xuander will not embarrass us, but there is such a trace of incense and will save a lot of effort. Cai Yang said with slightly red eyes. Soon Sai Yang came out with Jiao Weiqin and Yujing in her arms, and her maid took the Han history that Sai Yong had not finished when he was alive, and then the two got into the carriage that Hua Xiong had already prepared and slowly drove away from Chang'an. After traveling 30 miles, Hua Xiong rushed to the place where his infantry was stationed, and after a short rest, he started marching again, and with these 4,000 people in his hands, Hua Xiong suddenly became confident, and the existence of these people was his courage. Cai Yang's eyes flashed in the carriage, 4,000 well-formed infantry, and the man as the commander was actually the old man's subordinate, a prince? Cai Yang thought about it. As for Liu Bei, she didn't think about it. After all, in the small amount of outside information she had been in contact with before, Liu Bei was still a dilapidated Han clan member, only owning one Taishan county. On the other side, Yuan Shao on the front line of Jizhou and Yuzhou was directly frightened when he looked at the intelligence coming from the rear, and more than 1 million yellow turbans in Qingju were swept away by Chen Shi, and Chen Zichuan of Yingchuan was 2 against the sky. Yuan Hao, you also look at this information. Yuan Shao handed the latest information to Chen Feng, his most trusted advisor. The wizard of the world, the yellow turban will be defeated by him, but what I am worried about is that compared to the yellow turbans, Liu Xuander is our confidant. Chen Feng was stunned for a moment after reading the information, then sighed again and then frowned again. What I am worried about is the same. If I had known that he was a disciple of the Chen family in Yingchuan, when the princes were following me all day long, I should have won them over. But unfortunately he was taken in by Liu Xuander, such a wizard, it's a pity. Yuan Shao thought for a while. He had some impression of the name Chen Shi, and then thought about it. Wasn't this the kid who followed him in the early days of the princely alliance? Ha! Chen Feng was stunned. The Lord has seen Yingchuan Chen Zichuan? It's also my carelessness. I should have asked more at the beginning. When the princes met the alliance, I saw that he was a talent, so I followed me into the tent outside the big tent to eat wuding. I didn't care, and I chatted with him a couple of words, but I didn't talk deeply. I knew that his name was Chen Zichuan. It's a pity, and then Liu Xuander kept taking him, and now I think that Chen Zichuan voted for Liu Xuander at that time. Yuan Shao said a little depressed. If he had known such a big fish, he shouldn't have let it go. What kind of small shrimp was pretending to be at that time? This is also helpless. It has been like this since ancient times. The South has its own public and Yuan Bo defended. Even if Liu Xuander did something wrong, it would not be a big problem. After all, that area is our Jizhou mainland, and the advantage is great. Chen Feng sighed and said, fortunately, Chen Zichuan is a capable minister, and he will not start a war lightly. Presumably he wants to take advantage of me to show off his military might and plunder when I have no time to take care of him. In that case, then my main strategy remains unchanged. If Chen Zichuan just wants to get something here like me, give it to him. Now our main goal is still Gongsun Boisgouet. Only by defeating him, we can sweep the world. Before defeating Gongsun Boisgouet, tolerate the existence of other princes." Yuan Shao lowered his head and thought for a moment, then raised his head and said calmly, "The Lord is wise." Qian Feng bowed his hands. What he was most satisfied with about Yuan Shao was this. Yuan Shao was very good at judging the situation, and in any situation he could calmly judge the current situation and choose the most beneficial way for himself. "In that case, I will write a letter to inform the public, asking him not to conflict with Chen Zichuan as much as possible. As long as the other party's request is not too excessive, I will agree for the time being. If the other party deliberately provokes trouble, then..." Qian Feng's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and it was the talent of all excellent strategists to break when it was broken. "Okay. 2 of my subordinates in the Hebei Fourth Court are sitting on the border of Qingju, and the good ministers under my command are also there, and Jizhou is the homeland. I want to see if Chen Zichuan can go against the sky." Yuan Shao nodded and said, when he mentioned the pillar of the 4 courts in Hebei, he was obviously proud. Chapter 127. When you are poor, you think about change. But before Yuan Shao could send the letter to Zhu Shou, the second piece of information arrived. If Yuan Shao still felt that he was just shocked in the previous information, then the latter piece of information means that Liu Bei is already qualified to stand with him. Even if there is a difference between strength and weakness, the current Liu Xuande is already the lord of a state. "Yuan Hao, look at this information." Yuan Shao said a little bitterly. If he had known that the child was so powerful, he should have always taken it with him, and now he really regrets it. After Qian Feng roughly browsed this information, he stared up at Yuan Shao and said word by word, "Lord, Liu Xuande must be our future enemy. Chen Zichuan is a wizard of the world. Guanzhong Zhao Zhiyong has spread all over the world. We must be on guard. But now that Gongsun Boisgouet has invaded Jizhou in the south, we can only try to defend, more than enough defense and not enough progress." Speaking of this, Qian Feng hesitated for a moment and stared at Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao was puzzled, so he asked, "Yuan Hao has something to say. Does the Lord dare to take risks?" Qian Fengyi said cruelly, "Why don't you dare?" Now Yuan Shao is still in a period of heroism and courage, and he is not too afraid of Qian Feng's stimulation. Our current strength against Gongsun Boisgouet can be said to be more than defensive, but it is basically impossible to gain an advantage in Gongsun Boisgouet's hands. The speed of the white horse is too fast. I think since we are not enough to attack, then completely abandon the attack, and then move here. Qian Feng stretched out his finger to a position on the ground and said, "If the strength of a state cannot be defeated in the short term, then let us strengthen our strength to the point where we can not fall behind even if we face both sides at the same time." Qian Feng said solemnly, "Bingju is now rampant in Wuhanxian Bay, and it is not a problem at all to defeat this miscellaneous army with our strength. I propose that we divide our troops now, all the way to attack Bingju, all the way to guard the frontier, just." Qian Feng looked at Yuan Shao. The current Yuan Shao is still very far from the time when he occupied the land of the 4 states in history. The soldiers and horses were like clouds, and the generals were like rain. In addition to the defense of the local forces, now Yuan Shao has brought all the troops of the entire Jizhou. Although the words were not finished, Qian Feng's meaning had been clearly expressed, that is, to mobilize the troops around Yuan Shao to reclaim Bingju, and the remaining troops followed Yuan Shao to defend Gongsun Boisgouet. With Gongsun Boisgouet's pride, seeing Yuan Shao provoking himself like this, he would definitely be furious and go all out to attack Yuan Shao's headquarters, so that as long as it can be dragged over and Bingju is taken, the whole situation will change dramatically. After Yuan Shao thought for a long time, he made up his mind with difficulty. "Okay, order Yang Liangwen to come and see me." Soon Yang Liangwen and Chou came to the Chinese army's tent, bowed to Yuan Shao and Qian Feng separately, and then respectfully stood in place waiting for Yuan Shao's order, which was different from when they were at Hulao Pass, and now the identities of the 2 of them have become Yuan Shao's vassals. Yang Liang, Wen Chou. Yuan Shao sighed and said, "The last will be." The 2 shouted loudly, "If only you 2 and Yuan Hao are here, and you 2 lead the troops to force Gongsun Zon not to cross the border between Jizhou and Yuzhou easily, you are sure?" Yuan Shao asked. "I will definitely fight to the death." Yang Liang and Wen Chou did not hesitate at all, and knelt down on one knee and blurted out. Hearing this, Yuan Shao first felt relieved, and then stretched out his hand and pinched his eyebrows. "What is this?" He didn't say anything. Yang Liang came up to repay with death. "I want you 2 bastards to die?" "Yuan Hao?" Yuan Shao turned his head to look at Qian Feng and said, "The 2 generals Yang Wen are brave generals, and they are fearless in charging into battle. Just leave these 2 and me here." Qian Feng praised Yang Liangwen for his ugliness, but he was still a little helpless in his heart, compared to Zhong Jiao Lan, a military general with both civil and military skills. Yuan Shao obviously trusted and valued Yang Liangwen ugly very much. "Okay, in that case, I'll take the risk later. Yuan Shao glanced at Chen Feng, then turned his head to look at Yang Liang Wen ugly with relief. Yuan Shao also knew that it was difficult for Yang Liang and Wen Chou to become a leading general, but did he Yuan Shao need that kind of general? The power of the Yuan family is not blown out, and the civil servants that Liu Xuande wants abound here in Yuan Shao. Yang Liang Wen Chou is indeed not good at commanding the troops, but Yuan Shao now recognizes the loyal only Wen Yang, and the others are more or less suspicious, so Yuan Shao always takes these two with him. When he was far inferior to Liu Biyu, in order to protect him, he dared to fight to the death with Liu Biyu. This kind of loyalty is what Yuan Shao needs. As for talents, the world is big to find sooner or later. But the loyal courtiers are only these two in front of them. Because of this, Yuan Shao planned to cultivate Yang Liang Wen Chou. Even if it really couldn't be done, it would be enough to bring 1 or 2 advisors as military strategists when the two of them went on an expedition in the future. I will not dare to slacken. Yang Liang Wen Chou looked at each other. Both of them were confused, but they still replied without changing their faces. Anyway, just listen to Yuan Shao's command. The two of them are ready to sell their lives to Yuan Shao at any time. Now Yuan Shao has not yet begun to be mediocre. He is still courageous, and after making up his mind, he beat the drum and raised the tent, preparing to divide his troops to deal with Gongsun Zon. Chen Shi, who was marching towards Jizhou on the other side, was completely unaware. Because of his behavior, Yuan Shao, who had been steadily fighting, had to take the risk of attacking Bingju. Stationed in Licheng, there is no need to move forward. We are here to put pressure on Jizhou, not to provoke a war. Ida, if you dare to send troops without authorization, don't blame me for being rude. Chen Shi sat in the government office of Licheng and stared at Zhong Fei and warned. On the way, Zhong Fei kept shouting that the battle in Qingju was not good, and he must fight with the 4 courts of Hebei in Jizhou, and several times he wanted to lead his troops to Jizhou first, which made Chen Shi have to warn Zhong Fei. In case of really provoking a war, it would seriously damage the interests of Taishan. Chen Shi knew very well that their strength was not enough to occupy Jizhou at all, and it could even be said that they could only win for a while when they fought with Zhu Shou, who stayed behind in Jizhou, and it was impossible to really defeat the local defense forces of Jizhou. Since Jizhou could not be defeated, Chen Shi did not have the slightest intention to do it. The war between Gongsun Zon and Yuan Shao was the opportunity for Liu Bei's development, and now they were only suppressing Jizhou with the power of great victory, just to show off their might, instead of coming to fight with Yuan Shao. It can be said that only Gongsun Zon is happy to see this kind of thing with Yuan Shao, and the two sides go all out to attack Jizhou, and the possibility of Yuan Shao's defeat is not impossible. But this is not the slightest benefit to Liu Bei. After defeating Yuan Shao, how to divide Jizhou? Gongsun Zon is indeed a hero, but so what? Under the asterisk of the country, Gongsun Zon, who has gradually become obstinate and self-willed, can listen to people's words. At that time, because of the attack on Jizhou, Liu Xuande, who did not consolidate Qingju, was not just a piece of fat. Can Gongsun Zon not eat because of brotherly love? Your wife and I will raise her is not an empty phrase. Chapter 128: The necessity of the Zhen family in Jizhou. Hua Xiong rushed to Yangzhou with the mounted infantry. The latest information had arrived. Cao Mingde had become the governor of Yangzhou, and then Chen Shi had defeated the Qingju Yellow Turbans, ordering Hua Xiong to try not to cause trouble and pass through Chenliu quickly, and he sent Zong Bie to greet him in case he came to greet him. Of course, once Zong Bie came out of Mount Tai to greet Hua Xiong, it meant that there was a bad change in the situation with Cao Mingde, so Chen Shi hoped that Hua Xiong would not use the cavalry led by Zong Bie. After all, once Zong Bie entered the country, it was equivalent to turning his face against Cao Cao. In this situation of seeking stability, the high-profile style was only to avoid others from disrupting their plans, not to provoke war. With this letter, Hua Xiong was also a lot more careful. He didn't want to cause problems in Chen Shi's grand strategy because of him, although he had no idea what the so-called general trend was. On the other hand, the battle between the Zhan family in Jizhou and the Mi family in Zhuzhou has also reached a white-hot point, and the internal fighting within the 5 wealthy merchants, the battle between the first and the 5th, the result is shocking. But what is shocking is that from the beginning, the Zhuzhou Mi family, a wealthy businessman who has risen for 3 generations, directly suppressed the Zhen family. A big family of more than 100 years, suppressed the Zhen family from all aspects, and almost directly blocked the business channels of the entire Zhen family. What wealth the Zhen family has, almost everyone in Jizhou has a rough estimate in their hearts, but they don't want to be easily banned when they face the Mi family. The same thing is better quality and cheaper in the Mi family. As for the new goods, the Zhen family has not yet appeared. The Mi family has already been put on the table. This difference makes it difficult for the Zhen family to ship at all, and can only rot on the hands. However, fortunately, the Zhen family itself is in Jizhou, extremely popular, and is originally from a family, with its own exclusive channels. It was not hit too much at the beginning. At most the middle and lower sales were affected by the Mi family. But this situation has not appeared before in the Zhen family. so it continues to focus on its own upper-level sales. One of the tragedies of businessmen in this era is that their status is too low to contact the real top-level family. Only the family is qualified to communicate with the family, and the businessman is not qualified at all, so the Jeune family is not dismissive of the impact of the Mi family at all. Originally, there was really no way if the Mi family was really alone, but now the Mi family has too many comrades in arms, and the Jizhou family does not all like the Jeune family, and there are always one or two who are not pleasing to the eye. For example, the Kui family, which is itself a great family in Jizhou, and the Gang family, a descendant of Liu Xiu from the Dragon Minister. They will not forget the opportunity to take advantage. In this way, the Jeune family is tragic, the top-level sales, there are the Zhong family and the Gang family supporting there, and the Mi family has begun to clear the field. If it were not for the suppression of the Jizhou government, the current Jeune family has let the Mi family invite out of the scope of middle and lower-level sales, so that the Jeune family, which originally planned to make a lot of money in Jizhou, was directly blocked this time, and all the goods were pressed on the hands. And every day was a large amount of silver money. Damn the Mi family, what are you going to do? Jeune Mi's mother, Zhong, looked at the daily accounts on fire. She never thought that such a century-old family as their Jeune family would be blocked by a small deflated 3 families that had risen for 3 generations. Mistress is not good. At this moment, the housekeeper of the Jeune family rushed to the door of the inner courtyard shouting, "Jeune Lun, what do you look like when you shout?" Zhong frowned and asked, as a housekeeper, why didn't Jeune Lun have a little bit of the Jeune family's dignity at this time? It was too embarrassing. Go down and get 10 sticks. The mistress is not good. The Mi family brought the government to collect the debt with the entire Jeune family's contract. Jeune Lun lowered his head and quickly explained the whole thing. Zhong was stunned when he heard this, and then all the things in the whole year were connected. Okay, I don't know which family dares to calculate my Jeune family like this. Let's go and see. The Kui family and the Gang family don't have this guts. If the people behind the scenes think that just one Mi family can make my Jizhou Jeune family submit, it's really a joke. Let's go. He wants to see the official. Let's go see the official. If my Jeune family can be defeated by a businessman who has been in Jizhou for 3 generations, then the death of my Jeune family should also come. Mi Zizhong has seen Mrs. Jeune. Mi Zhu saw Zhong smile bitterly and bowed his hands. He was not willing to do such a thing as a wicked person at all. Are you Mi Zizhong? Zhong glanced at Mi Zhu and nodded slightly. It is indeed a talent. How does it feel to be involuntarily? Zhu is unwilling, but since he has agreed, he has no choice but to do so. Madam, please. Mi Zhu nodded, but did not agree with Zhong's statement, and made a gesture of invitation sideways. Let's go. I want to see how the people behind you defeat our Jizhou Jeune family in Jizhou. If the head of the Mi family is homeless in the future, he can come to my Jeune family, and I believe in Mi Zizhong's talent. Zhong said with a chuckle. There was no panic about the current situation, and the bearing of the noble lady of the family was vividly displayed. Alas, madam please, the Jeune family's ability on the ground in Jizhou is indeed strong, but it is limited to Jizhou. Madam may not even know who has offended anyone. Sometimes a word, a look will cause huge damage. Madam will continue then. Mi Zhu shook his head slightly, without the slightest annoyance at Zhong's words, and replied calmly. When Chen she defeated the Yellow Turbans, and then surrendered millions, took Qingju into Mount Tai, and went north with the power of great victory. Mi Zhu knew the ending, not to mention that the Jeune family was at a loss now. Even if the Jeune family was polite, it would be abandoned by Jizhou. No one wanted to burn the war to their doorstep because of outsiders. The Jeune family was just one of the wealthy families in Jizhou. Not to mention that it was not the largest family, even if it was the largest family. This time it could only carry this matter alone. The strength of the family is the connection, because it has this kind of network to become a powerful force in the local area. And this time the Jeune family's connections can only remain silent under the suppression of the Yuan family's connections. In this way, the strength of the Jeune family, which had no connections, fell by 90%, and Chen Shi also had a good opportunity to subdue the Jeune family and nail a nail to Hebei. Although this nail is not stable at all now, but with the strengthening of Liu Xuanda's power, this nail will become more and more stable. When Liu Xuanda's power is stable one day, the Jeune family will see the opportunity to follow the dragon, and at that time, compared with the Yuan family that abandoned itself, the Jeune family will naturally make a choice, and a nail that is enough to shake the fundamental nail of Jizhou when necessary. The Jeune family's connections are what Chen Shi needs. This time the Jeune family lost. That is because the strength of the Yuan family is too strong. Other families can only give up, and when Liu Bei rises up and overwhelms Yuan Shao in Hebei, the situation of strength and weakness will be reversed, and the entire Hebei family needs to think about the Jeune family that falls to Liu Bei's support, or continue to follow the Yuan family. In this way, many things will be solved, so the Jeune family is very important in Chen Shi's plan, very important. Too many calculations need a Hebei wealthy family. Too many plans need Hebei wealthy families to come forward. Chapter 129. It's all calculating. Please join the group and search for the mythical version of the Three Kingdoms. Zhong felt a little uncomfortable when she saw Zhu Shou sitting in the government office and the heads of major families, but the self-confidence of the Jizhou nobles still made her not think deeply about these things. Soon after receiving Yuan Shao's message, the Mi family and the Zhen family broke out of this kind of thing, and Zhu Shou did not think much about it, and deliberately probed, or after the signal released by Mi Zhu to the Jizhou official was officially accepted, Zhu Shou soon understood that Liu Xuande wanted the Zhen family. What does the Zhen family have? Zhu Shou thought carefully and found that it was nothing more than the connections and wealth of the north, but these were nothing compared to Jizhou, especially Yuan Huai, after Yuan Cheng's 2 veins were injected into Jizhou. With the eyes of Yuan Benchu, Zhu Gongyu, Chen Yuanhao and others all understood that the family in Jizhou needed to be weakened, and Jizhou could only have one voice, that is, the Yuan family. However, there is a saying that the strong dragon does not suppress the snake on the ground. The Yuan family is powerful, but the Geng family, Kui family, Zhong family, and Zhan family in Jizhou are all wealthy families that have been around for hundreds of years, and may not be as influential as the Yuan family in the Central Plains. But compared to Jizhou, the 4 families join forces, and the Yuan family does not want to take advantage. This is also the reason why Yuan Shao's power came to Jizhou and also needed to win over local forces, and the local snakes were too strong. The information released by the Mi family is actually good news for the Jizhou officials, but even so, Zhu Shou also deliberately sent a letter to Chen Shi, warning Chen Shi not to take an inch, and Chen Shi's reply made Zhu Shou feel relieved a lot. Qingju is tired, millions of yellow turbans are burdened, you will judge fairly when the time comes, and then give me 1,000,000 stones of grain. After reading it, Zhu Shou passed the messenger to the front line, but he already knew what to do. 1,000,000 stones of grain is not too much of a problem. Now Jizhou is prosperous, and last year was a bumper harvest, and the government's grain storage exceeded 20 million stones, but I gave you 1,000,000 stones in vain. While arguing with Chen Shi, Zhu Shou asked Mi Zhu not to be too anxious, don't sue the Zhen family first. He was not ready, and quietly contacted the heads of the families in Jizhou when he turned around, pointed out the current situation, and even took out the battle report. Speaking of the different families in Jizhou, there are no professional intelligence handlers, and the intelligence system is naturally mostly chaotic, although it is known that Taishan sent troops to deal with the yellow turbans. But what is the current accurate situation? The Kui family, which has the best intelligence system, also knows that Chen Shi has defeated the yellow turbans. This matter is quite shocking to the head of the Kui family, but it has nothing to do with their Kui family. Well, at least the head of the Kui family thinks so. After Zhu Shou took out the latest battle report and handed it to the heads of the large and small families in Jizhou, the faces of all the families turned black, and Gongsun Zon was regarded as an outside the territory of the enemy, so he didn't have to worry about the raging war in front of his door and smashing bottles and cans. So what should Chen Zichuan do? More than 1,000,000 yellow turbans were defeated and surrendered in a month, and this kind of person is now at his doorstep, sharpening his knives. Maybe it's really not dead? In an instant, all the head of the family stared at Zhu Shou, and then the head of the Kui family scanned the surroundings and frowned slightly. Such a big thing actually didn't see the Zhen family. He didn't understand the military strategy, but the family knew very well. The Zhen family was either squeezed out of this group, or the things that were about to be discussed were related to the Zhen family. Otherwise, according to the identity of the Zhen family, there would inevitably be a position. Similarly, those family heads who had good enough eyesight and flexible enough brains also found something unusual, so they didn't talk and just stared at Zhu Shou. Soon the commotion of the audience fell silent, staring at Zhu Shou who was sitting in the main seat. This time is indeed related to the Zhan family. Zhu Shou smiled and said, let them guess, and the other party would be able to understand their thoughts when they said it. This is Chen Zichuan's letter. Think about it, I'll go out first, and the fate of Jizhou will be in your hands. Zhu Shou played a trick, handed over Chen Shi's letter, did not give everyone present time to react, and left directly. After half an hour, Zhu Shou was invited back, and as he expected, the Zhen family was directly kicked out, and even the Zhong family, who had a good relationship with the Zhen family, did not say anything more. In the face of their own interests and the life and death of the Zhen family, all the families silently chose their own interests, according to the head of the Geng family. In order for the Zhen family to involve the entire people of Jizhou in the war, it was not the work of the wise, so the Zhen family was out. With the support of all the families in Jizhou, Zhu Shou indifferently calculated the power of the Zhen family, and finally found that the entire Zhen family was estimated to be not enough to compensate, and he was immediately relieved. The 4 major families in Jizhou were abandoned, and the overall strength declined sharply, and the Yuan family also had the possibility of intervening. After accounting for the Zhen family's family property, Zhu Shou sent a fast horse to Yuan Shao overnight. He had a better plan. Since Chen Zichuan wanted to play, he didn't mind using Chen Zichuan's hand to subdue the 4 families in Hebei at once. The family was all wall grass. Since Chen Zichuan can use it, why can't I use it? The icing on the cake is the effect of sending charcoal in the snow, and the Yuan family and the Zhen family may not be able to integrate the entire Jizhou at one time. With this mind, he began to prepare carefully, and mobilized the treasury money with the idea of guarding against Chen Shi, which was a good opportunity, an opportunity for the Yuan family to completely control Jizhou. As long as you seize this opportunity and fully grasp the population of Jizhou, a large grain-producing state, the power bursting out under the combination of military orders and government orders is definitely enough to defeat Gongsun Boiguei, and then the power of the three states of Xiao and Hebei, the world can be expected. Thinking of these, Zhu Shou felt extremely excited, and the feeling of leveraging the general trend of the world made him tremble, miserable and blessed, and Zhu Shou clearly felt this kind of mutual support and dependence. Zhong Xingying saluted, although the atmosphere was a little weird, but after glancing at Zhu Shou who was sitting on his hand, he suddenly felt a lot more relieved. The Jizhou official did not fall to the Mi family. With this guarantee, Zhong was a lot more relieved. There was no official power of Jizhou. Just by the Mi family wanting to defeat the Zhen family in Jizhou, it was just a joke. For Mrs. Zhen, Mi Zizhong will give you a seat, Zhu Shou said with a flat face, and soon someone moved the couch and asked the two of them to sit down. Mi Zhu frowned slightly. Zhu Shou gave Zhong a seat he could understand. After all, the Zhen family inherited the official position of 2,000 stones. Zhong was eligible for the treatment of a lady, and he was just a businessman, not an official, and it was not in line with etiquette at all for Zhu Shou to give him a seat. Could it be that Zhu Shou wanted to mediate? Mi Zhu thought unconsciously. No matter what Zhu Shou did, the initiative was in Mi Zhu's hands, and now every step was as Chen Shi expected, and it had come to this point, and the arrow had to be sent on the string, and the Zhen family should be over. After ordering someone to move up a box of land deeds and IOUs, Mi Zhu's face was calm. These evidences are all genuine, and I don't think I will deny the reputation of the Zhen family. Soon, the secretary stood up and said to Zhu Shou after crossing all the evidence, reporting to the prefect, I have verified that they are all land deeds and IOUs signed by the Zhen family. This time, in order to avoid omissions, every official is his cronies, and naturally he knows that he does not need any bias this time, speak with evidence, and do not care about the identity of the other party. Chapter 130 The Two Great Trenches in the Court. If Mrs. Zhan has any problems, I will definitely not listen to only one side of the word. If there is anything that is not in line with the truth, please let me know now, Zhu Shou said with a calm face, not looking to take sides. Zhong smiled and did not refute, and said directly, these title deeds and IOUs are all from my Zhen family, although I am very interested in knowing how these IOUs and land deeds came from, but this is not the place to talk about these, and please Zhu Gong directly convert the money. Obviously, Zhong directly admitted that his money was not enough, and allowed the government to buy it back at a discount, and then use the repurchased money to pay off the debt. After all, this kind of debt is overdue, and it does not violate the criminal law, and it is still a miscellaneous law in the Han Dynasty. According to the law, as long as it is paid off within the given time after the government pronounces the verdict, it will be whipped 3 times at most. Because of this, in cases like this where debts are overdue, the means of repayment and the time limit for repayment determined by the presiding judge are the key, and according to the results of the repayment, the final punishment can be described as very different, and the insolvent will even be demoted to slavery. Zhong has the status of a wife, and will not be punished with flogging at all, let alone demoted to slavery because of insolvency, so the final punishment will be cancelled. As long as Zhu Shou prolongs the given time, or even delays it again and again, the Zhen family can get all the shops directly without spending a penny. But it is obvious that Zhong doesn't want to do this. That kind of practice is too embarrassing to the face of the Zhen family. The Zhen family can't take out so much money, but the goods are still in hand. As long as the goods are paid off at a parity, the Zhen family will lose a person at most this time, without much actual damage. Of course, this refers to the situation of real discounts. When the Han Dynasty government forcibly repaid the debt, there was very little such a discount in the Han Dynasty, and the government discount was more ruthless than the 7 out of private lending, and the 3 discounts were regarded as face, but it was not impossible for a wealthy family like the Zhen family to make a discount in the local area. To be precise, if even this could not be done, it could still be regarded as a century-old wealthy family. Zhu Shou sighed and stood up. Mi Zizhong is willing to show mercy to his subordinates, and let go of the Zhen family? As soon as Zhu Shou said this, those who knew the current situation began to whisper, after all, this is a little different from the script they regarded as a unification. They have unified their caliber and abandoned the Zhen family, and now you Zhu Shou said this kind of thing. If things take a turnaround, won't it be troublesome? It's not that Zhu doesn't want to. The Mi family Zhen family doesn't have any grudges, and even before that, there were some business dealings. As for now, the Mi family has no choice, can only go down one way. Please forgive Zhu Gong. Mi Zhu got up with a wry smile and bowed to Zhu Shou. Things have come to this point. As long as he insists on not letting go, Zhu Shou can only pronounce the sentence according to the miscellaneous laws, and he can only use the discount commonly used by the government, and the Zhen family has been forced into a corner. I also know that it is not easy for your Mi family. Can you discuss it and give the Zhen family a favor? We Jizhou will not forget this matter after this incident. Zhu Shou continued to mediate, implying that Mi Zhu will not forget this matter whether you let go or not. I will not forget it. Let go of my Jizhou, remember your kindness, and if you don't let go, my Jizhou will one day avenge this shame. You remember me. Mi Zhu smiled bitterly on his face, but he didn't care in his heart. The ending of Yuan Benchu and Liu Xuanda is Yu Zhu Gong, and can you be sure? If you can see through the world, do you still need to be here? I have a whole family to press Liu Xuanda, and you have a whole family to press Yuan Benchu. You tell me now that Yuan Benchu is good? Zhu Gong, with Jizhou's ability, he probably already knows who the person behind me is. I am just a pawn of others. Even if I don't want to fight with the Zhen family, what can I do? Mi Zhu lowered his figure and said helplessly. Zhu Shou sighed. Is the person behind you really unwilling to reconcile with Jizhou? There is no direct conflict between our sides. Zhu Shou persistently showed in front of Zhong how much he defended the Zhen family in Jizhou, thinking that he would make plans in the future. I don't dare to be authoritarian. Mi Zhu continued to maintain a bitter face, despising Zhu Shou in his heart. Knowing how things were going, Mi Zhu was now 90% sure that Zhu Shou was a bastard who just wanted to pick himself out. Alas, Mrs. Zhen. Zhu Shou turned his head and saluted Zhong. Thank you Zhu Gong for your protection. Please also calculate the physical objects. The things my Zhen family bought may not be worth so much money. Zhong stared at Zhu Shou and said, a real conversion is equivalent to selling to the government, and the Zhen family even has a little profit. Presumably the head of the Mi family has lost a lot this time. That's not true. Any item sold by my Mi family in Jizhou has a little profit, although not much, but it can be regarded as a tower of sand. Mi Zhu smiled and said, he was sure that this time the government would never make such a real accounting to the Zhen family as he thought, and a discount was already the limit. Soon the existing family assets of the Zhen family were calculated, reporting to the county magistrate. The Zhen family's calculable asset contract is 770 million yuan. The difference is 1 billion. Shu's said with a shocked face, even if it is a discount, the assets of the Zhen family are worth 770 million yuan, and the heads of all ethnic groups in Jizhou who were immediately present were shocked to look at the Zhen family. They all knew that the Zhen family was rich before, but no one was bored to calculate the assets of the Zhen family before, and it was not easy to account. This time it was an eye-opener. If it weren't for the 10% discount, the Zhen family should have 7 billion yuan, so much money according to the price of grain in Jizhou converted into rice equivalent to 40 million stones. This is no longer a simple family of huge rich, but the strength of their own family alone is enough to support the super rich of the princes all the way. The first time the Hebei family felt the pressure, and the nobility of the blood could not resist the charm of money. Zhu Shou trembled a little, although he already knew this data before, but after announcing it in public, he felt that he was trembling, and when he learned this data, Zhu Shou felt that he completely understood why Chen Zichuan must have the Zhen family. Liu Xuanda's foundation was unstable, and the money and food were insufficient, and he could basically consolidate the foundation by swallowing the Zhen family. What is a million yellow turbans? The Zhen family has raised all of them, and they will not be seriously injured, not to mention that there is still a Mi Zhu standing here, and the 5 wealthy merchants should have billions of dollars no matter what. Mi Zhu was also frightened, although he and the Zhen family are called the 5 major wealthy merchants, but this Zhen family is also too rich. He is about 2 billion yuan, and the Zhen family's family property is directly 4 times his. No wonder the position of the Zhen family's first wealthy businessman has never moved for many years. The head of the family present stared at Mi Zhu with a bit of greed, swallowing the Zhen family. Your Mi family should become the first wealthy businessman, and it is also a wealthy businessman without a background, under the asterisk of money. No one here cares about giving the Mi family a clan background, and does not mind letting Mi Zhu enter his circle. For the greedy gaze of the family present, Mi Zhu could only smile bitterly. He is now very suspicious of Chen Liwei, who has been at odds with the Zhen family. What assets does Ha Dongwei have? And the 2 Wei families who have fought with the Zhen family for 100 years without falling behind, probably have assets that far exceed their own. Mi Zhu once again made up his mind that his Mi family would also become this kind of wealthy family. P.S. The wealth of these 2 families is not a joke. There is basically no expansion. The money of the Mi family can be calculated. The dowry of Mi Zhen when she got married in history was close to 2 billion yuan. Should I say that this is the real tyrant? Of course, according to the time, the Mi family at that time should have almost 2.5 billion family assets. Chapter 131 The Heritage of the Family. What? When Zhong's assets were accounted for at 770 million, he directly took the case, and then angrily glanced at the head of the family present, looked up at Zhu Shou who was sitting at the first place, thinking about the previous situation, and suddenly his chest rose and fell. Okay. As expected of the Hebei family, worthy of the Yuan family in Yuzhou, my Zhen family recognizes the planting. Mi Zizhong, grace period of 10 days, just 2 billion yuan, my Zhen family can still get it. Zhong's eyes spewed fire, angrily scolded the head of the family present, and then stood up and said to the servant, "Let's go." When Zhong turned around and left, no one dared to stop him, and the heads of the Hebei family glanced at Zhong and silently turned their heads to look at Mi Zhu, who was still sitting in front of the hall. This was the first of the 5 new wealthy merchants. Congratulations to Zizhong. The head of the Gang family stood up and bowed to Mi Zhu. You can come to my Gang family's house if you have the opportunity in the future. Then there was a congratulatory sound in front of the entire hall. The Mi family, the head of the new wealthy businessman, is indeed worthy of winning over all the families present. So many family assets, plus their family's connections, may not be able to create a world in this troubled world. Especially this partner will not be dangerous at all. Mi Zhu returned the salute one by one, without any domineering look. Thank you, Mr. Zhu. After everyone left, Mi Zhu bowed to Zhu. You're welcome, I'm just doing things according to the law. You go back and tell Chen Zichuan that I, Zhizhou, am willing to ally with Qingzhu, and as for Zizhong, the door of my Zhizhou will always be open to you. Zhu Shou said with a smile. For Mi Zhu, Zhu Shou's view is the same as that of the Hebei family, a partner without the slightest danger, and the most important thing is that he is too rich. Mi Zhu's eyes flashed with surprise, and he said with a smile, thanks to Zhu Gong's not abandonment, she will definitely come to Zhizhou again. I hope that Zhizhou will not give up at that time, and my Mi family's wealth is not inferior to the Zhen family. It's easy to say. Zhu Shou laughed, fooling a local tyrant, although Zhizhou is not short of money and food, but there is such a local tyrant, and when necessary, the treasury will be fat in an instant. After Zhong returned to the Zhen family, he closed the inner courtyard, and no one was allowed to enter except for the Zhen family's direct lineage. The situation is like this, the entire Hebei family has excluded our Zhen family. Zhong slowly appeared in the form. Mother, are we moving away? Zhenmi said without the slightest panic. Move away, until the Zhen family leaves, unless Zhu Gong or Mi Zizhong comes in person, they will not be received. Zhong took out the courage of the mistress of the family and directly suppressed the opposition of all the retainers and the separation of the family. Until now, we don't know what we are facing. The dark line of the Zhen family has not sent back any information until now. Our Zhen family has reached this point. Reporting to the mistress, the secret line of our family was cut off by each family at the first time, and now there is no secret line to send back the news, and the power of the entire Hebei family has far exceeded the power of our Zhen family. A retainer of the Zhan family stood up and said, abandon all dark lines and rearrange. Since the Zhan family has failed, everything before has been rearranged. Zhong said calmly, since the failure is irreparable, then reduce the loss as much as possible. Ordered the clan members to evacuate Hebei in batches. All the business connections were cut off, and the Zhizhou business network was lost, and our Zhen family is still the wealthy family in the world. Zhong gave an order, although there was a mistake in the decision this time, but because Zhenyi took away all the forces of the Zhen family who were dissatisfied with the Zhong family before his death, the current Zhong family still maintains absolute control over the Zhen family. Emir, you stay. After explaining everything clearly, each of the Zhen family's direct descendants began their own operations, and when Zhanmi was about to leave, Zhong spoke. The dowry your father left for you before he died will be handed over to me to solve this matter first, and then when the family is stable, I will prepare the dowry for you again. Zhong looked at his 9-year-old daughter and asked, let your mother do it. Zhenmi said calmly. When Zhanyi was alive, there was a fortune teller Liu Liang who met Zhanmi, saying that it was indescribably expensive, and Zhanmi was Zhenyi's youngest and most favored daughter, so he prepared a dowry for Zhanmi long before he died, worth 2 billion yuan. From this aspect, the 5 wealthy businessmen have similar thoughts. Mi Zhu married his sister Mi Zhen to Liu Bei as his wife's dowry is 2 billion yuan. Izhou Wu Yi's dowry to his sister Wu Yuan is also 2 billion yuan. Chen Shi was finally relieved when he received the letter from the north, and now he was wandering on the border of Zhizhou, and he could receive Mi Zhu's letter for most of the day at any cost, and now he was following him with Zhao Zilong, a white horse and silver spear, and as for Guan Yu and Zhong Fei, he was still stationed in Liqing and did not bring it over. Let's go to Zhen's house in person. Let me think, what identity should I use? Chen Shi jumped into the carriage while making arrangements to Zhao Yun, speed up a little, the Zhen family is not an ordinary family, it must have its own way back. In case it is late, the Zhen family may move away. Okay, Zichuan, don't worry. Zhao Yun smiled heartily. The vacancy of 1.2 billion yuan is not so easy to fill, although Zhu Shou has already been prepared, but it is really not easy to prepare so much money without alarming other families in Zhizhou. At least now Zhu Shou is only half prepared. It seems that I need to go to Zhen's house in advance, and it is not easy to prepare so much money. Zhong said so firmly before, I think there are other ways to come to the Zhen family, so the 600 million money I have now should be enough. Zhu Shou estimated the current situation, and sighed helplessly. The war with Gongsun Zon is really burning money, and sure enough, if there is another war with Qingju, Jizhou, which is fighting on both sides, may not be able to withstand it. Mi Zhu took Chen Shi to the outside of the Zhen family's mansion, although the Zhen family was defeated this time, but the whole family did not see the slightest dilapidation. The bluestone bricks in front of the door were still swept clean, every gap was wiped clean, and the guards at the door were still majestic, without the slightest decadence. Mr. Zizhong. The two guards looked at Mi Zhu with burning eyes, but the whole action was not rude in the slightest. Madam has told me to wait, Mr. Zizhong is visiting, there is no need to stop it. Someone will lead you to see Madam when you enter the door. Thank you. Mi Zhu clasped his hands. Click. After Mi Zhu passed, the two directly drew their knives to stop Chen Shi and Zhao Yun. They knew very well that these two people were brought by Mi Zhu, and the lady ordered not to take action against Mi Zhu, but she did not say that they could not attack Mi Zhu's acquaintances. Before Chen Shi could speak, the two guards were thrown out by Zhao Yun, and the difference in strength was too great. Let's go. Even if the centuries-old family is defeated, there will be no decline in spirit. Chen Shi browsed around wantonly, and the heritage of the wealthy family was vividly displayed in this detail. Chapter 132: Overwhelming People with Power. Chen Shi and Zhao Yun walked in directly, and soon the servants of the Zhen family came up and surrounded Chen Shi and Zhao Yun. But unfortunately the difference in strength was too great, and the formation was far away, and they were all defeated by Zhao Yun almost in an instant. Madam, this is not hospitality. Mi Zhu said loudly to the empty space. He didn't believe that such a big thing happened in the front hall, and the Zhen family didn't know. Why can't evil guests be treated like this? Zhong's voice came from the middle hall. Zhong, if you don't want to cause a big war between the Chen family in Yingchuan and the Zhen family in Jizhou, stop, otherwise, I don't mind giving you a little power, your Zhen family's connections, say something rude, I don't mind making you unable to get out of Jizhou. Chen Shi's cold voice reached Zhong's ears. Yingchuan Chen family. Good, okay. Zhong's angry voice came. Chen Shi had no scruples about Zhong's anger, and it was nothing as to use the name of the Yingchuan Chen family. He had used it many times, and the Yingchuan Chen family didn't care, and after pacifying the Yellow Turbans, he was more qualified to use this bluffing title. Zhong did not suspect that Chen Shi was lying. All the families in the Central Plains had this ability to block the Zhen family, and now the Liu family was too busy to take care of themselves. The Yuan family had no time to play with the Zhen family at all. The Yang family was still in a period of chaos, and the only ones left in the entire Central Plains who could barely do this kind of cross-state battle were the Chen family and the Zun family. Zilong, let them all lose their combat effectiveness. Chen Shi saw that the servants of the Zhen family still didn't stop, and said to Zhao Yun sideways. Puff. A series of gunshots. Well, now we can talk. Chen Shi walked towards the middle hall with a gentle face. Presumably you are Mrs. Zhen. Chen Shi bowed slightly to the woman sitting on the top. Chen Zichuan has seen the lady. This general is good. Zhong ignored Chen Shi, but stared at Zhao Yun and said, He, Zhao Zilong, who is the second in the world today, is actually good in the eyes of the Zhen family. Should I say arrogant? Or should I say that my vision is too small? Chen Shi had a warm expression, but in Zhong's eyes, it was so hateful. Isn't this scolding the Zhen family for having no eyes? After saying that, Chen Shi clapped his hands, and the people led by Mi Zhu quickly carried a pure wooden heavy chair to Chen Shi and placed it opposite Zhong in the middle hall, and then Chen Shi slowly sat down, sitting higher than Zhong, and the sunlight behind him was directly blocked by Chen Shi's tall backrest, leaving only a shadow for Zhong kneeling in the middle hall. Let's talk. Chen Shi stretched out his hand and looked at Zhong. What is there to talk about with your Chen family? Zhong Shi breathed a sigh in his chest. Chen Shi's posture of being around was really unbearable for Zhong, but Zhao Yun, who was standing beside her, made her unable to act rashly, and the entire Zhen family was directly suppressed by just two people. There are many things that can be discussed, such as this time. For example, Madam, anything is fine, I am here to talk about this, and Madam probably doesn't want me to return empty-handed. Chen Shi said unhurriedly, when his eyes swept over Zhong's, the kind of eyes that were not looking at beautiful women, but looking at the goods made Zhong shudder. H&H. My Zhen family can still take out a mere 2 billion money. Zhong said toughly. Chen Shi was slightly startled when he heard this, but fortunately, he didn't face Zhong at that time, but just looked around the Zhen family hall without any demeanor, so he was not seen by Zhong. To be honest, your Zhen family can withstand it a few times. Chen Shi put down his legs, sat upright and stared at Zhong and sneered. This world competes for wisdom when the status is equal, and I think that wisdom is not weak, and I am single-handedly facilitated by the Zhen family, and I have not borrowed the slightest strength of my own family, So even if the Zhen family moves to Bingju and is adjacent to the Wang family, believe me, the ending is not different. When Chen Shi said this, his strong self-confidence made Zhong feel a sense of fear. Do you want your Chen family to enter this overall situation and fight in person instead of betting? As if he was captured by Chen Shi, it took a long time for Zhong to speak. That's not the case, I'm just preparing a gift for the person I like, and picking and choosing, only the Zhen family is suitable. What does the lady think? Does the Zhen family want to go further? Chen Shi stared at Zhong and asked. Zhong didn't reply. The situation is indeed not good now. The power of the Zhen family, all the connections have been cut off. It is not enough to fight against the man in front of him. If you don't speak, just acquiesce. Simply say that I need your Zhen family. Give me 2 billion money, and I will do business with you. Chen Shi held his head and said indifferently, maybe your Zhen family has other choices, but I think the land in Jizhou is the most suitable for the Zhen family to survive. This time I just want to show my ability. The shops and land purchased by the Zhen family before are considered gifts. As for the future goods, the price will not be higher than the price you bought before. Chen Shi's loose attitude gave Zhong too much shock. There was no arrogance, only that kind of casualness and indifference, but the words revealed undoubted confidence. But Zhong could not be indifferent. Can you mobilize merchants from the world? Zhong said with difficulty. If this is the case, the Chen family has probably accumulated enough wealth to buy the land of a state, and then think deeply. This family has a serious criminal record. Didn't the Chen family 600 years ago buy the state of Qi, one of the 5 hegemons, with wealth, and then ended the entire spring and autumn era with the division of the 3 families? And opened the era of the 7 heroes of the warring states period. Just drive them away. Chen Shi said casually, I don't know what the lady thinks. The Yuan family is not easy to get along with. Zhong thought for a long time. The person in front of him may not be a good plan, and with the things he said before, the Zhen family has completely completed the layout of Jizhou. Even if there is an accident, the resistance will not be as weak as it is now, and in terms of the temperament of the person in front of him, the chosen person will definitely not be weaker than Yuan Shao, and it may not be impossible to succeed. Please take a break from young Master Chen. I can't pay attention to such a big thing alone. Zhong stood up and bowed. My Zhen family will give an answer soon. I'm waiting here, but I don't have much time. Chen Shi said with a smile. Chen Shi was sitting in the living room, and soon after Zhong left, the dining table and banquet were set up, and the surrounding maids also served Chen Shi calmly, and did not show a look of fear because of Zhao Yun's previous actions. Chen Shi is not restrained. He should eat, he should see. He is very casual and accurate for the Zhen family. Now his actions must have been reported to Zhong, and Zhong is also probing his identity, thinking that he will soon know the entire Qingju yellow turban incident in his previous spread, and he will know why the entire Jizhou will choose this way. Just when Chen Shi was observing wantonly, a little girl who bit her lower lip came over with a tea tray, and her fearful but firm eyes made Chen Shi stunned, and she couldn't help but stretch out her hand towards the other party. Chapter 133 Disturbed. When Chen Shi woke up, his right hand had already touched the little girl's face, and he couldn't help but look a little embarrassed. But in the next moment, he regained his composure. When would he be obsessed with women? But since he touched Chen Shi and didn't want to show that he did it intentionally or unintentionally, he didn't need to do this, so he tried to say calmly, Zhenmi? It's really a good look. Zhenmi blushed, although she was young, but she also knew that her face could not be touched by others. Her identity was the noble daughter of the Zhen family, and she was the most beloved daughter of the Zhen family's generation. Zilong has some mercy. Chen Shi listened to the footsteps behind him, and said without looking back, just these people. It was a joke to take down Zhao Yun. Do the previous expression again. Chen Shi stared at Zhenmi and said, Ah. Zhenmi looked at Chen Shi puzzled. Do the previous expression again. Chen Shi repeated, ignoring Zhenmi's puzzled expression. Zhenmi didn't understand what Chen Shi said at all. Do you want me to say it again? Chen Shi was a little anxious. Hurry up and do it again. Do it again. Zhenmi was directly frightened by Chen Shi's anxious expression. His eyes were covered with tears, but he held back and did not shed them, and his eyes circled. Chen Shi slowly closed his eyes. He didn't want people to see the other side of him, and when he opened his eyes again, Chen Shi had already regained his composure, took out the white silk and threw it to Zhenmi. Fortunately and unfortunately are really. Zizhong, take a chair and let her sit down. Soon Mi Zhu ordered someone to move a chair up, put it next to Chen Shi, and then asked Zhenmi to sit down. Mother said that there should be a sitting appearance, and young Master Chen's current sitting appearance does not look like a wealthy nobleman. After Zhenmi regained her composure, she looked at the chair that Mi Zhu ordered someone to move, but she didn't sit down, but looked at Chen Shi and said generously, there was no fear before. She could clearly feel that the man in front of her had no ill intentions towards him. Take the couch and remove the chair. Chen Shi said calmly, then stood up and asked someone to move the things away, and soon the couch was carried over, and Chen Shi knelt in the center of the Zhen family's living room. The division of hosts and guests is not a good reason. Zhenmi looked at the change of couch and sat there calmly. The wooden folding fan he was holding was also placed horizontally on the right side of the couch, and the whole person looked elegant and polite, but except for sitting in the center of the main hall. It's really a similar temperament, similar actions. Chen Shi looked at Zhenmi with a touch of remembrance in his eyes, as if he hadn't heard it, and soon the color of remembrance faded, leaving only a piece of clarity, sighed and said, "Tell your mother, for your sake, your Zhen family escaped disaster. Forget about this matter. Zizhong left us with that box of title deeds and IOUs." After saying that, Chen Shi got up directly, took Zhao Yun and Mi Zhu to leave, walked to the door and looked back at Zhenmi unconsciously, but unfortunately did not see his hopeful look, only a puzzled face, sighed, and strode out of Zhen's house. "Zichuan, what are you doing?" After leaving the Zhen family, Mi Zhu asked in a panic. It was inconvenient to ask each other in the Zhen family before, and Mi Zhu was completely crazy when he left the Zhen family, finally seized such an opportunity. "It is about to close the net. Why did you suddenly let go? This will not only not make the Zhen family grateful, but will only make people think you are so stupid." Similarly, Zhao Yun also looked at Chen Shi with a puzzled face, but did not speak. He had seen Chen Shi's magic too many times. "It's nothing. What we need has been done, and everything else doesn't matter." Chen Shi said indifferently, "As far as the situation is concerned, everything that needs to be done has been done, and it doesn't matter whether the last step is taken or not." "I mean you. Why are you obsessed with lust?" Mi Zhu said angrily, although this matter was arranged by Chen Shi, but Mi Zhu, as the executor, spent too much thought, and now you say give up, all my hard work is in vain. "An 8 or 9-year-old girl fascinates me." Chen Shi said disdainfully, "I have also seen your sister Mi Zhan. At that time you can see that I have the slightest interest. The important thing is not Zhen Mi. The important thing is her demeanor, her face, otherwise in terms of appearance alone, Zhen Mi is only about the same level as your sister." "If you say that." Mi Zhu frowned. Chen Shi used to be honest with the beauty, and when Mi Zhu asked his sister to serve tea, Chen Shi had that lazy look, and he didn't even bother to say a word of evaluation to say the exact statement. "It's not what you think, that's it." Chen Shi shook his head and said, he didn't want to come back to Jizhou, and he didn't want to see Zhen Mi again, and that look in his memory was still unforgettable. Zhong looked at the couch in the middle hall and looked at the maids around him strangely. "Where are Chen Zichuan and the others?" "Madam, young Master Chen has left, but the title deed and IOU have been kept. Let us tell you, this matter has passed in the eyes of the little lady," and he left after saying that. The maid also said with a curious face, and everyone present saw the previous situation. Zhong found a maid to fully understand what happened before, and then she was puzzled. She didn't know when Chen Shi and Zhanmi had communicated, just the self-confidence and arrogance that Chen Shi showed before. How could she be commanded by Zhanmi? This is simply incredible. Believe it or not, Chen Zichuan really left all the boxes of land deeds and IOUs worth more than 1 billion yuan, which means that Chen Shi really didn't intend to pursue it, and gave up the effort he had spent before, regardless of whether it was rewarded or not. What is Chen Zichuan trying to do? If he doesn't take advantage of the good opportunity, he will actually give up this great opportunity to annex the Zhen family because of Emma's words. Is there something wrong? Zhong frowned and thought, as for Chen Shi's words, for Zhen Emai's face, forget it this time. Zhong would not believe this kind of thing at all. Forget it, since he gave up, this time the trouble is over, let's ask him what's going on later. Zhong thought about it again and again, but he didn't figure it out, and finally gave up and continued to think. Just reach out and take the money he got in hand, and don't care about the reason. Just when Zhong was going to return the original Zhen Emai's dowry to Zhanmi, a servant came over. "Madam, Zhu Gong asks for an audience." Zhu Gong and... Zhong's eyes flashed with a cold light. Compared with Chen Shi, the Yuan family and the Hebei family made Zhong feel cold. But now that the crisis has subsided, Zhong doesn't mind settling accounts with all the families in Jizhou. This time it's not the Zhen family's loss. Chapter 134. The general trend is like this. What can you do? Seeing people who shouldn't be seen, Chen Shi's current mood is extremely bad. If he hadn't stayed in Jizhou for a few days, waiting for Zhong's news, Chen Shi would have now turned back to Mount Tai. Since seeing Zhanmi, Chen Shi's gloomy expression, Zhao Yun and Mi Zhu have seen it in their eyes, although they have not asked, but individuals will not lack gossip psychology. What Chen Shi said before, now Mi Zhu and Zhao Yun don't believe it at all, although they don't understand why Chen Shi, who is usually too lazy to look at my G, will have such a big reaction to Zhanmi, but from which side this is a big gossip. Military division. Mrs. Zhan brought Zhanmi to visit. Just when Chen Shi was confused, a sergeant ran over and said to Chen Shi, "Let them in." Chen Shi was wearing a white dress, and he was not dressed, leaning lazily on the chair, but when he heard Zhong and Zhen Emai's visit, a touch of complexity flashed in his eyes. Military division. It's not appropriate here. Most of the sergeants who could follow Chen Shi to Jizhou were Zhao Yun's personal guards, and they all had a certain upbringing, so they naturally knew that meeting guests in the bedroom was a bit too much, and there were also 2 female guests. They'll come. Chen Shi squinted at the bonsai on the side, and the vague hope in his heart was that because of his poor hospitality, Zhongsha took Zhanmi away and never appeared in front of him again. Hey! The sergeant clenched his fists, and since Chen Shi had made up his mind to do so, there was nothing to say. Taishan County Governor, Liu Xuanda's military division, Chen Zichuan, you are really a big shelf. Zhong's people have not yet arrived, but the voice has come over, and Zhong's family, who has now stabilized the situation in Jizhou, is very different from the previous few days. Sit down. Chen Shi didn't even raise his head. Chen Shi's angry Zhong almost wanted to turn around and leave. When was she, as the actual ruler of the Zhen family, been treated like this? Hiding the anger in his heart, Zhong chuckled. I heard that Chen Zichuan is full of wisdom, everything is expected, and he is the best at planning for a rainy day, and I don't know why he decided to leave this time. Aren't you here? Chen Shi sat up straight and his eyes swept over Zhong, and finally fell on Zhan Mi. I may not think what you think when I'm here. Zhong said coldly. It's nothing more than the Yuan family saying that they want to pull you. If I don't let go, in that situation where there is no choice, you can't choose that path. Your Zhen family has not yet reached the point of exhaustion, as a local family in Jizhou chose the Yuan family, but it is just a self-determination of the world. Chen Shi raised his head and said with cold eyes, it's just a false way to destroy Guo, unless it is a last resort. Your Zhen family will be attached to the Yuan family? Who can be a pillar of your Zhen family? But a character who has been annexed. Don't you also want to annex the Zhen family? Zhong sneered. There is no difference in essence. You can choose the Yuan family. Chen Shi's gaze did not change. He had already seen some of the familiar expressions he had seen from Zhan Mi's face. You. Zhong was directly half killed by Chen Shi. Aren't you afraid that I will switch to the Yuan family? Chen Shi didn't speak, just silently glanced up at Zhong, and then turned to look at Zhan Mi, but at that moment, the contempt in his eyes deeply stung Zhong. What does Liu Xuanda want? Zhong silently restrained the coldness on his face, and looked at Chen Shi with the majesty of the head of the Zhan family. Chen Shi withdrew his gaze that stayed on Zhan Mi and focused on Zhong. I want to do business with my wife. We don't want the Yuan family to completely master Jizhou so quickly, so we need a spokesperson, and the Zhen family is suitable. Zhong looked at Chen Shi and didn't speak. She didn't believe this reason. Don't underestimate Yuan Benchu. The Hebei family will not be Yuan Shao's opponent alone. Xu Ziyuan, Shen Zhangnan, Feng Yuantu has gone there now? The defense of the front line of the north mainly relies on Qian Yuanhao, and the south relies on Zhu Gongyu. So what about those henchmen who took Jizhou at the beginning? Although Chen Shi said that he no longer thinks about this aspect now, he has made a lot of preparations before. Jizhou belongs to Yuan Benchu. It's only a matter of time. No matter how the Jizhou family struggles, they can't get rid of this fate. Chen Shi said unhurriedly, I just hope that your family will be a little more powerful and die a little slower. As for the rest, I don't have hope, and this time my behavior is just a reminder to you that there are too many ways to bring you down in this world. Is the Yuan family's power really to that extent? Although Zhong did not fully believe what Chen Shi said, he also had to have doubts. For the sake of the family, it is the instinct of every family member. It's not the Yuan family, it's Yuan Benchu. In troubled times, the strength of the family is sometimes not as good as the individual. The Yang family of the 5th generation and 3 dukes was played by Dong Zhuo alone, and the world is no longer the era of abiding by the rules of the family before. For example, before my soldiers pressed Jizhou, it was not good. At that time I wrote a letter to Yuan Shao to take the lives of more than 100 people in the Zhen family. Yuan Shao must also think about it. Chen Shi calmly said things that made Zhong's hair stand on end. After pondering for a long time, Zhong finally made up his mind. Indeed, this is no longer the era of paying attention to rules before. Okay, I promise you, for our Zhen family, but also for the entire Jizhou family. Zhong's eyes showed obvious unwillingness when he said about the Jizhou family, and the Zhen family always had to rely on the strength of the entire Jizhou family. Madam is worthy of being a hero among women. Chen Shi congratulated absent-mindedly. HMH, don't be so perfunctory. Zhong said dissatisfiedly, let's talk about the alliance between my Zhen family and your Taishan. Speaking of this, Zhong's eyes flowed with a touch of brilliance. In the past 10 days, under her investigation at all costs, she finally got the information she wanted. Whether it was white paper, white porcelain, or liquor, Zhong was very interested. Alliance. Chen Shi glanced sideways at Zhong, then silently turned his head to continue to admire Zhan Mi. After looking at it for a long time, Zhan Mi already had a little, so similar charm. My Zhan family also has the world's #1 wealthy businessman. Zhong had a touch of pride when he said this. Businessmen are indeed contemptible, but when there is a certain amount of money, any vision needs to be reversed. Zhong expressed dissatisfaction. Chen Shi stared at Zhan Mi, who gradually became shy because of his gaze, and said without raising his head. The Zhong family was choked to death and half to death, and the wealth of the Mi family must be reassessed. This is the feeling of all the families. This 3 generations of wealthy businessmen have entered the eyes of all those who aspire to the world after fighting with the Zhen family, and the wealth is not a joke. You don't want my Zhen family to become a vassal of Mount Tai like the Mi family, Zhong said angrily. I just don't think it's necessary. The Zhen family can build a branch point in Mount Tai. When Chen Shi said this, he completely got rid of Zhen Mi's influence, and his tone was unquestionable. Zhong looked at Chen Shi, and then looked down at his daughter. Okay, this matter is settled. Chapter 135 Stealing a chicken is not a backlash of rice. When Zhong left with Zhan Mi, Chen Shi covered his forehead, and after a while he cheered up, and breathed a sigh of relief. This matter is over, everything is settled. It's time for me to turn back to Mount Tai. I don't want to come to Jizhou again. Zizhong, let's go back to Mount Tai. Chen Shi stepped out of the door and said loudly. Okay. Mi Zhu's voice came from afar. Before when Zhong came in person, Mi Zhu understood the affairs of Jizhou. Although in Mi Zhu's opinion, Chen Shi was sometimes unreliable, but he still recognized his ability very much. Sitting in the carriage, Chen Shi silently thought about the events in the entire Jizhou, and finally determined that there were not too many loopholes, and the rest of the competition was the hard power of the Yuan family and Liu Bei, and when the time came, who would overwhelm whom, it would not be like now, but really speaking with force, and only Liu Bei's victory could be qualified to use the Zhen family's chess piece. Zizhong, did I look a little sick before? Chen Shi was wearing a white brocade robe, leaning on the carriage without grace and closing his eyes to recuperate. If Zichuan likes Zhan Mi, it doesn't have to be like this, and if he comes to propose marriage as Zichuan, the Zhen family is unlikely to refuse. Mi Zhu did not directly say that Chen Shi was sick, but said that Chen Shi should go directly to marry Zhan Mi. It's not suitable, and it can only be used as a vase when married. Chen Shi smiled bitterly and said, her demeanor is too similar to the person I remember, very similar. Vase? Mi Zhu did not understand the repetition. Even if I marry her, it's just as another person's sustenance. There's no need. Don't let me come to Jizhou if it's necessary in the future. Chen Shi slowly opened his eyes and said, I don't want to treat a woman as another person. The coldness of Chen Shi's eyes made Mi Zhu feel a tingling, and he basically understood why Chen Shi saw Zhen Mi's gaffe. Military division. The southern city gate of Nanpi is closed. Zhao Yun turned his horse around and said softly outside the carriage. Oh, Zhu Gongyu seems to have found me. Forget it, I'll go out to see him. The situation is not good. Remember to do what I said when I came. As soon as Chen Shi heard Zhao Yun's words, his originally bitter expression was revealed, with a hint of mockery on his face. It was really good to cooperate with you. Where is Zhu Gong? Come out and take a look. Chen Shi walked out of the carriage, stood on the yoke and looked in the direction of the city gate. Tiger Prisonful, I haven't seen you for a year, and when I say goodbye, I don't want the original young man to be famous all over the world, frustrating millions of yellow turbans. I don't know if Zichuan is willing to live in Bohai. As soon as Chen Shi finished speaking, the originally blocked city gate gave way, and Zhu Gong looked at Chen Shi with a smile on his face. It's true that I haven't seen you for a year. Chen Shi casually jumped out of the carriage and walked towards Zhu Shou without any entourage. I don't know what Zhu Gong taught. Seeing Chen Shi walking towards him, Zhu Shou also greeted him with a smile. Nanpi City had been blocked, and it was impossible for these people led by Chen Zichuan alone to rush out. Even that Zhao Zilong, under the siege of the reorganized troops, could only drink hatred on the spot. Since Zichuan is here, it is not something a guest should do if he doesn't come to see me, the master. Zhu Shulang said with a smile. Chen Zichuan is intelligent. He believes that the intelligence of the people who can sweep away the millions of yellow turbans within a month is definitely not low, and in just 1 year, the ruined Taishan will be governed to a prosperity comparable to the prosperity of Wei County in Jizhou. Now Zhu Gong, the master, I have also seen it. Are you willing to let me go? Chen Shi chuckled and said, the two of them were only 1 step apart. Zichuan won't stay for a few more days. Let me do my best as a landlord. Zhu Shou didn't let go of the slightest words, looked at Chen Shi and said, it seems that Zhu Gong wants to force him to stay. Presumably you have investigated all over Mount Tai before you did it, and Chen Zichuan is not joking about preparing for a rainy day. Chen Shi looked at Zhu Shou with a hint of mockery on his face and said, the dagger in his left hand was already on Zhu Shou's neck. The assassin's methods can make you unable to get out of Bohai County, and if I die here, you Chen Zichuan will not be able to get out of Bohai, not to mention that Liu Xuanda's foundation is weak, and losing you Chen Zichuan is much more serious than my lord's loss of Zhugong, and it may be angry and cut him down, and the great foundation will be ruined. I have heard that Liu Xuanda is the king of benevolence, and he must not be able to help his right-hand man die. Zhu Shou completely ignored the dagger around his neck, with an indifferent expression. If I don't even know this, I don't need to call Chen Zichuan. Those two should be Zhong E. V. Gao Yuanhua. Chen Shi looked at the unfazed Zhong Zhou and Jiao Lan with a mocking face, and when he came to Zhu Shou, he told all the possible responses of Chen Shi. Zilong. Chen Shi turned his head and glanced back at Zhao Yun. I saw Zhao Yun take out the treasure bow from the horse, and in an instant, the originally lazy Zhong Zhou, Jiao Lan and the generals behind him were on guard at the same time. Zhao Yun didn't even look at the two of them. He directly drew his bow and shot at the sky. A silver-blue arrow shot directly into the sky, and then burst in the sky. Not good. Zhu Shou reacted immediately, turned his head to Zhong Zhou, Jiao Lan with a panicked face, and shouted, Zhong Zhou, Jiao Lan, quickly order the generals to garrison the 4 gates and guard Nampi. You two quickly return to the barracks and mobilize the infantry into the city. Chen Zichuan, you really want to provoke a war between Qingju and Jizhou? It's not me who provoked the war between Qingju and Jizhou. It's Zhugong. A gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall. I can't put myself on for the sake of a city and a place. You must know that I'm still a guest of Zhugong. Do you think so? Chen Shi didn't take Zhu Shou's threat to heart at all. Chen Shi did not dare and would not provoke a war between Qinghai and Hebei states, and Zhu Shou also did not dare and would not provoke a war between Qingju and Hebei states. Both sides were rat throwers, which was the reason why Chen Zichuan dared to come to Bahai alone. Otherwise he would not have put himself in danger for a plan, and even to be accurate, Zhu Shou's small residence was really only 3 months, not really forced. Chen Zichuan, what do you want? Zhu Shou said coldly. Jizhou is prosperous, Bahai is rich, Zhugong scared me half to death, then I will take away a small half of Nampi to suppress and frighten. By the way, when Zhong Zhou Jiao Lan reorganized the troops out, Nampi city must have been broken, and the city gate without the blessing of the army's defense could not withstand the blow of our army's vanguard. Chen Shi said nonchalantly, how good it was for Zhugong to let me go out before, but now it's a big trouble. It was only a stick of incense in the meantime, and only a loud noise was heard, and the east gate of Bohai County was blown up. Yang people Zhong Ida is coming. Look, I'll know. Chen Shi said with a hippie smile, Zhong Zhou Jiao Lan is obviously a general, but he is taken by you as a guard. Do you think I am a little sorry that I don't take this opportunity to be ruthless? Zhu Shou has completely understood Chen Shi's thoughts. If he doesn't stop Chen Shi can only leave like this, and if he wants to stop Chen Shi, for the sake of safety, he must bring Zhong Zhou Gaolan with him, so that Zhong Jia Gaolan's deputy general will also follow, which directly leads to the army having no command system. Once the ancient army has no commander, it is a group of rabble. Chapter 136. Take the opportunity to take root. Is this trying to kill my rhythm? The shelf was changed to the afternoon, and my book has been troubled since the signing of the contract, but since it was said to be changed in the early morning, then let's do it. How about it? It only takes 1,000 people to take a city, capture the supreme commander in the city, defeat like a mountain, and the city gate is broken. What does it mean to the defenders? I think Zhugong knows better than me. Chen Shi looked mocking. Now Zhongfei only has 500 people, but 500 does not seek to kill the enemy, only to disturb the soldiers, and it is still very destructive when the opponent does not know the soldiers do not know the generals, and the city gate is broken. Chen Zichuan, I admit that you have courage and wisdom, but you are too careless. My famous general in Hebei is not so easy to deal with. Zhu Shou sneered and said, even if you can suppress the Nampi guards for a while, but wait. Why He Yuanhua led the army back, and you and everyone were completely in danger. How about discussing? I will let you wait and leave. You stop Zhongfei and don't let him wreak havoc. Zhu Shou said with some distress. He had already seen several black waves. Don't worry, Ida will not destroy it. After all, Nampi city is also one of the faces of Jizhou. Chen Shi said with a chuckle. Zhu Shou immediately breathed a sigh of relief. If Zhongfei continued like this, Nampi's loss would be great. But the two generals Zhong Jiao of Zhugongxi probably can't do the kind of thing they want. Chen Shi opened the wooden folding fan to hide his chuckling expression. It's so eye-catching that the Nampi camp is so eye-catching, it's really good. As he spoke, a huge blue light crossed the sky in the west of the city, and then the earth shook slightly. Chen Shi's folding fan covered his mouth, and his eyes squinted at Zhu Shou. How? Chen Shi laughed, but please stop the idea of holding me hostage. I am different from Zhugong's self-confidence. Zhao Zilong has been staring here. I promise that the moment Zhugong takes out the dagger to cut the meat, Zilong will be able to split your dagger in half. After saying that, Chen Shi took the dagger, and Zhao Yun would guard Zhu Shou, and he didn't need to do it himself. Soon Guan Yu brought his 500 school swordsmen to press Zhong Zhuo, Zhou Lan and others, and bowed to Chen Shi. Fortunately, I am not humiliated. Yun Chang, go stop Yi De. Don't let him continue to destroy. We still have to defend Nampi. It doesn't take too long, just one day, and during this time, it is too late for other places in Jizhou to react. The 3 supreme commanders who carry out local defense are here. The command system has collapsed. I don't know if Z can hurry up. Chen Shi looked sideways at Guan Yu and said with a flat face. Chen Zichuan. Zhu Shou shouted angrily. Zhu Gong, please put away that look. Since you have made a choice, you have to bear the consequences. This has been the case since ancient times. I think Zhu Gong is probably not a person who does not dare to take responsibility. Chen Shi said calmly. As for Zhong Zhuo Lan, who was sealed by Guan Yu and left aside to be taken care of by Zhao Yun, Chen Shi was also very interested. After all, these are 2 big fish. Alas, this means of communication is really garbage. Now Z probably hasn't received any information from our side, although I asked him to make preparations. But now he is probably still squatting on the Qinghai-Hebei border. It's really a waste of time. Chen Shi stretched out and said. Chen Zichuan, what the hell do you want to do? Zhu Shou looked at Chen Shi angrily. He had already heard from Chen Shi's words. The situation was sliding in the direction that was most unacceptable to him. If Tai Shitsi really sent troops out of Qingju, the Jizhou army without the supreme commander would definitely be blown up, and the loss of Bahai County was almost a foregone conclusion, and then the entire battle of Yuzhou and Jizhou could be completely rewritten. I still want to ask you what Zhu Gong wants to do? Chen Shi said with a sneer. If Gongsun Buigui takes Jizhou, what good will it do to you? Zhu Shou looked at Chen Shi angrily. It's better than Yuan Benchu. Gongsun Buigui and Xuandagong are like-minded, and being a neighbor is guaranteed. Chen Shi said with a mocking face. After hearing this, Zhu Shou breathed a sigh of relief. Chen Shi was also wary of Gongsun Buigui, so there was room for cooperation. What do you want? Zhu Shou asked calmly. I moved out of Nampi City. Chen Shi said unceremoniously. Zhu Shou shivered. How much effort did it take him to build this city? He was building it when Han Fu was doing it, and now it is being built. Then it's settled. Chen Shi smiled and turned around. Now the general trend is in him. There is no need to negotiate with Zhu Shou at all. What he says is what. But no matter how much he wants, it may touch Zhu Shou's nerves, and it will also make Yuan Shao's originally difficult defense collapse. Yun Chang and Zilong led their troops to defend the 4 gates. Nampi City is a bit too big. This 1,000 people are indeed a little difficult to defend, but it is enough to hold on for a day. Z must have given a death order to rush back and forth. As for other places in Bahai County, there is no order to probably only guard the city defense. Chen Shi said helplessly, but in Zhao Yun's opinion, it was really full of ridicule of Jizhou. Hey! Guan Yu Zhao Yun hugged his fists. As long as Chen Shi does not touch the interests of the family, they will not care about the current situation. Especially now it is obvious that Chen Shi is powerful, and they themselves do not have a deep connection with the Yuan family, and the Yuan family who suffered from the disaster said something bad, and they have nothing to do with them, and they can mock the Yuan family when they turn back. As for Zhong's eyes shining brightly when he saw the current situation, Zhu Gong and the celebrities in Jizhou knew that his ability could be known from this Nampi City. But now he was countered by Chen Shi in Nampi City. I was shocked to hear that Chen Shi had swept away millions of yellow turbans before, but now the situation in front of me made Zhong understand the power of Chen Shi even more. Let's go home. Chen Zichuan may not be a good choice. Instead of betting on others, I am more optimistic about Chen Zichuan. Zhong smiled and touched Zhenemai's head. Doesn't we want to go to Mount Tai to see it? How about our Zhan family go there to build a branch? Tarzan? Zhenmi nodded. I heard that it was the place where the emperor was sealed. Amir, grow up quickly. Zhong smiled and touched his daughter's head. Someone likes it at such a young age. Zhenmi lowered her head shyly, then hugged her mother again, and rubbed in Zhong's arms. Mother, after Chen Zichuan left, I feel that the family has become the same as when my father was alive. Zhong was silent. After experiencing this incident, she understood that Zhen Yi's choice was the most correct at the beginning. The Zhen family had passed the primitive accumulation stage of eagerness for success, and now she didn't need anything else. She just needed to work steadily. The Zhen family's wealth far exceeded the imagination of normal people, and she didn't need to be like she did before. Chen Shi didn't know that the Zhen family was already planning to fall directly to Liu Xuande when he saw this scene now, and the effort he spent in the entire Jizhou no longer needed to wait a few more years to brew. At this moment, the seed planted before had taken root and sprouted, absorbing the Zhen family's hatred for the Yuan family and the Jizhou family and slowly growing. Chapter 137 Attack on Your Advantage. The author is no longer struggling. We still update ours, and the rest has nothing to do with us. After Guan Yu saw the silver-blue light, he directly ordered people to rush to the Qingju border and let Tai Shitsi come quickly, which was what Chen Shi had arranged just in case. To be honest, it's not that Chen Shi doesn't want to secretly transport 20,000 troops to Jizhou, but he doesn't have that ability, even if Guan Yu and Zhong Fei's 1,000 personal guards are all in several batches of merchants. As for the 20,000 troops who want to cross the border secretly, it is simply a joke. Even if it is fog and rain, this movement is too big. The reason is very simple. One is because there is no military order, and the middle and low-level generals are not qualified to mobilize the soldiers of the Nampi camp. If another Nampi city is lost, it belongs to the Nampi defenders, and if the Nampi camp is lost, it will really be a major event in the entire southern part of Jizhou. Because of this, there is now a strange calm between Nampi city and Nampi camp. Nampi camp obviously has 30,000 elite veterans, and Nampi city only has 1,000 guards of Zhongjiao, and as a result, both sides are on high alert and do not dare to go out to meet the enemy. Ha ha ha, Zichuan, you see that there are 30,000 elite veterans in the Nampi camp, and now they are just guarding against it and don't dare to go out of the camp to fight. At this time, only Zhong Fei dared to say such a cold joke. Zhu Gong, you Jizhou soldiers are really good. You can still ensure the previous regulations when the situation is unclear, although it is rigid, but it is troublesome to defeat it. Chen Shili ignored Zhong Fei, turned his head and said to Zhu Shou, which could be regarded as telling Zhong Fei, I am waiting for you to be captured. Under the unclear situation, the army can only be spared from war by abiding by the military rules. Even if my Jizhou soldiers do not have the command of the three of us, you will lose a lot if you want to take it. Zhu Shou said coldly. However, Zhong Fei's words are good news for the current Zhu Shou. As long as 30,000 elite veterans rely on the camp military formation, under the leadership of middle and low-level generals, strictly guard against stubbornness, it is impossible to win, but it is definitely a threat that is enough to bring a considerable degree of damage to Qingju. Zhu Gong can rest assured, if it is a piece of fat, I will swallow it in Qingju, but it doesn't have to be like this for an unnecessary hard bone. Chen Shi opened the folding fan, shook it slowly twice and said, now please stay here for a day, and I will naturally let Zhu Gong leave after Zi comes. On the other side, Guan Yu's herald hurried to the border of Qingju, where Tai Shizi had already been waiting for him, and he was overjoyed to see his own herald coming. What's the situation? Before Tai Shizi could dismount, he rushed over and asked loudly. The troops came out of Qingju and plundered Nampi. The herald said loudly. The whole army is leaving. Advance at full speed, tonight without rest, forced march. Tai Shizi roared, and all the troops that had been on guard got up, picked up the dry food prepared by Tai Shizi and rushed towards Jizhou under the leadership of their respective team leaders. As for the garrison troops that were originally on guard in Jushu, all of them were strictly guarded, and none of them went out of the city to block the enemy. Their task was to block the enemy after receiving the order, and at other times they could guard their respective cities, and the task of guarding the Bohai mainland was what the Nampi camp should do. To say that Zhu Shou's approach is not wrong, it can even be said to be very good. After all, the defensive force of each county is not much. Instead of letting them block the enemy, it is better to let them rely on the city wall to defend, so that they can drag on a lot of time. More importantly, if Mount Tai does not uproot these cities, once defeated, the back road will be cut off, and there will be only one dead end. So Qingju wants to really fight Jizhou's attention, only to capture one city at a time, at least to kill a stable back road. Otherwise, once defeated, the entire army will be in danger of collapse. But Tai Shizi clearly knew that they were not going to attack the city this time, but purely to sweep a vote in Nampi. Even if there was an accident, Guan Yu could order the herald to send this kind of news, which must mean that Nampi had been attacked. As long as these 20,000 people entered Nampi, it didn't matter if they couldn't get out. Chen Shi, the planner of the center's flowering, had thought about it before leaving. He left Fei Zhang in Liqing to let Fei Zhang pinch the time, and once it was not good, he would notify Liu Bei to come and press Jizhou with the attention of the alliance, but that was a bad strategy. But fortunately, everything is as Chen Shi estimated. Zhu Shou is still as good at strategy as in history, cautious and prudent, plus focusing on the overall situation, and as a result, he was directly slaughtered by Chen Shi. But also, Chen Zichuan's appearance is easy to be labeled as young and frivolous, ignoring the overall situation. This time, Chen Shi directly followed Zhu Shou's personality and pitted the other party fiercely, making you so cautious, making you pay attention to the general trend, making you think that I am young and frivolous. I will give you crazy, I am bullying you, you bite me. The pride on Chen Shi's face could even be seen by Zhu Shou, but after seeing this scene, Zhu Shou was relieved. At least Chen Shi still belonged to the scope of a teenager. If he was so mature that his joy and anger were not visible, then Zhu Shou had to think about whether to use his death here to remind Chen Feng, Zun Zhon, Shu Yu and the others, so as not to underestimate Chen Shi and cause the situation to get out of control at that time. Since Chen Shi obviously has a proud look now, Zhu Shou is a lot more at ease. As long as he is still a teenager, then he can't avoid arrogance. Zhu Shou has already planned to brush Chen Shi's reputation after this matter, brush it to the world's reputation, until Liu Xuande is jealous. Zhu Shou doesn't believe that under such a high reputation, Chen Shi can always maintain his mentality. Young people, once they gain power, they are famous all over the world. He doesn't believe that when the time comes, the mouth of the world can't kill Chen Zichuan, a guy whose hair hasn't grown up. Aren't you full of wisdom? I will make you a stepping stone this time, let you show your wisdom well, and don't let you be famous all over the world. I won't call Zhu Gongyu. Chen Shi naturally didn't know that Zhu Shou had begun to calculate him, but this was also something that could not be helped. The troubled times were nothing more than you calculating me. I calculated you. The entire situation in the world was the result of the calculations of the strategists, and the soldiers came to block the water and cover the earth, which was nothing more than that. Zhu Gong, why don't you join us? I think you are a good person. Chen Shi asked someone to scramble an egg fried rice, got a portion for Zhu Shou, and held a bowl himself. While eating it over and over again, he persuaded Zhu Shou with no match. Zhu Shou ate the fragrant egg fried rice, feeling that there seemed to be something wrong with what he had eaten before, and after hearing Chen Shi's words, he raised his head. Don't say that loyal ministers don't serve the two masters. You Chen Zichuan himself don't have the heart to persuade me. Isn't this nonsense during dinner? Other times, I feel ashamed to open my mouth. Chen Shi said nonchalantly. Since you don't have such a heart and understand my intentions, why do you need to do this? Zhu Shou frowned and said, very puzzled by Chen Shi's words. Isn't this Lala's home? I am not familiar with Zhu Gong, so I just look for some topics. Chen Shi casually said that he wanted to make Zhu Shou angry to death. Chapter 138 Jizhou is over. After that, Chen Shi and Zhu Shou casually chatted about some things that had nothing to do with the military situation, and it was always difficult for Zhu Shou to understand Chen Shi's determination. But in the end he habitually fell to the landing point he had thought about before, young and frivolous. When the sun was about to set, Chen Shi looked at the clouds in the sky and smiled. After all, their Taishan soldiers had the protection of the city, and no matter how well the barracks outside, there would definitely be places that could not be taken into account. For example, now. Rumble tilde a huge thunder, and lightning coiled above the dark clouds. Chen Shi used a dark cloud to push the cumulonimbus clouds to run this way, but it began to discharge as it pushed, and it was estimated that it would rain heavily before it was pushed. But fortunately, Chen Shi's movements were fast enough, and he dragged the cloud over before the heavy rain poured down, and then the classic half of the day and half rain appeared, and the huge military camp in the west of Nampi City was directly pouring heavy rain, and only a small number of raindrops fell with the wind in the entire Nampi City. Well, it's very troublesome for you to sneak attack like this. If you can still attack the city on a rainy night, I admire you. Chen Shi clapped his hands with a smile on his face, and looked at the group of Jizhou soldiers who were panicking in the rain. After that, as Chen Shi thought, there were no strategists in the group of barracks who could dispel the cumulonimbus clouds. Chen Shi alone fixed the cloud there, and it rained all night, and the west of Nampi City basically went down to Chengzi Kingdom. Chen Shi felt that it was impossible for him to attack the city, and the ground was muddy. Tai Shutzi rushed over almost at dawn the next day, and forced a march overnight, although dozens of people fell behind, but compared to the number of 20,000 people, Chen Shi was already very satisfied. After all, this is the Three Kingdoms period, but the Republic of China period. These soldiers can already be called elite veterans. It seems that I am lucky. I really didn't encounter any bad luck along the way. Ha ha ha, Zhu Gong is really cautious enough. Chen Shi stood at the south gate of Nampi with Zhu Shou and said with a smile on his face. Zhu Shou listened to Chen Shi's words. His face was as dark as the bottom of the pot, and at this time, if he didn't know that he had been calculated by Chen Shi, it would be strange. Okay, as expected of Chen Zichuan, he is incomparably wise and plans everything for my mind. Zhu Shou suppressed the annoyance in his heart. Looking at Chen Shi with resentment, he didn't expect that he didn't know Chen Zichuan deeply, and Chen Zichuan would have such a deep understanding of his character. I slipped my mouth. Chen Shi folded the fan and covered his mouth, showing a helpless look on his face, and then Chen Shi thought about it and said to the guard behind him, "Take care of Zhu Gong. Don't let Zhu Gong have an accident." After saying that, Chen Shi walked under the city wall. He didn't have the combat effectiveness of Lu Bu, and jumped directly from the city wall. Well, Z is here, let his soldiers rest. After a full meal, we will relocate. Jizhou is good, very well behaved, and now the letter asking for instructions from Yuan Benchu has probably arrived in Yuan Benchu's hands. However, after Yuan Benchu gave his order and then sent it to the governor of Hajian, we were probably about to leave the border. It's miserable that there is no power to make decisions on the spot. Chen Shi despised Yuan Shao while spreading his thoughts. This incident will definitely give Liu Bei a shock, and there must be a decision on the spot. The quality of the Taishan soldiers can only be said to be average, and several of them obviously have treasury and do not move, but they turn to other people's homes. Alas, it is really helpless. Zilong, look at this group of people. They dare to get into other people's homes and don't be polite. 10 spine sticks. Let them have a long memory. Of course, if the woman is lonely, the sergeant is willing to marry. While warning Zhao Yun and Tai Shutzi, Chen Shi signaled them to turn a blind eye. As long as it was not too much, let's go with him. Anyway, we are here to grab food and money. Can the winner not do something bad? Chen Shi set up a few cases on the South Gate Tower of Nampi City, cooking tea. Zhu Shou, who had a dark face and was about the same as the bottom of the pot, blew the cool breeze of the north, drinking herbal tea to soothe his mood. Celebrities. If you want this kind of thousands of troops passing through the city gate, I drink herbal tea from the city. Chen Zichuan, are you enough? In addition to the big families and ordinary people in Nampi City, the entire treasury has been emptied by you. What else do you want? Zhu Shou said angrily, but he was reluctant to skip the white porcelain cup in his hand. Well, if it had been a little longer, I would definitely have gathered the people, equalized the land, and then exempted it from taxes for 3 years. How good it would be. Chen Shi said nonchalantly at the head of the city. As for Zhu Shou, he was already in a cold sweat. This kind of means is a proper way to cut off households. Ancient China is only the most important land for the people. The land that is divided will never be let go. There is a piece of land for a people who dig in the soil is the lifeblood. If Chen Shi does this, the entire Nampi will definitely not be peaceful. Okay, Zhugong, come with me. We will naturally let you go back when we get there. Nampi is yours, and I sincerely apologize on behalf of Shen Degong, and we have no idea of intervening in Jizhou, and please give Zhugong a way to live. Chen Shi's smile was as gentle as a spring breeze, but there was no sincerity in those words at all. The coachman drove the carriage with Chen Shi and Zhu Shou. As for Zhong Zhuo, he was knocked unconscious by Zhong Fei because he wanted to escape, and now he was sandwiched under his armpit, ready to be released at the same time as Zhu Shou, while Jiao Lan was knocked unconscious in the dungeon and was estimated not to wake up for a long time. To be honest, Chen Shi has the idea of persuading these 3 people, but this period is in the rising period of Yuan Shao. These 3 people will never surrender, and they cannot be killed or arrested. Otherwise it is almost equivalent to officially intervening in the battle between Yuan Shao and Gongsun Buague, which is completely 2 concepts of stable development and hoarding grain and garrison troops that Chen Shi thinks, locust plague and drought are not far away. Once Yuan Shao intervened in the war between Yuan Shao and Gongsun Buague at this time, the originally arrogant Yuan Benchu saw that the situation was not good, and he might mobilize his allies to fight together, and the ensuing war was almost equivalent to the Central Plains War. This is not half a penny of benefit for Liu Bei, who is now weak, and he will be disabled if he wins, and the benefits will be swallowed all by the boss. What's the point of fighting like this? It is better to control the war as much as possible within the scope of the situation that can be controlled, which is good for everyone. Well, it is really good for everyone, and the war should also be controlled for the sake of the people's livelihood in the world. Looking at the slowly marching Taishan army, Chen Shi was in a good mood. Sure enough, this kind of thing was still not suitable for him. Squatting at home, clothes to reach out to eat to open his mouth is his favorite life. There is so much food, plus the Lu family exchanges books for food everywhere, although it is enough to choke on feeding more than 1 million yellow turbans, but fortunately, it can catch up with the summer planting. And it is almost enough to carry it for 3 months. Thinking about the good life in the future, a smile appeared on Chen Shi's face. If he went back, he should get married. Chen Lan, it can be regarded as a concubine. Chapter 139: The Hidden Dangers of the Princes of the World. Sure enough, no one stopped him all the way, and Zhu Shou's already dark face had completely become solemn. After arriving at the border of Jizhou, Chen Shi asked Zhu Shou to get out of the car. Zhugong forgives me. For the sake of my life, she has to do this. Presumably Jiao Yuanbo will come here soon. Zhugong, please wait. Ida, you let General Zhong go too. Since Zhong Zhuo was brought out by Zhong Fei under his armpit that day, even if he knew that he was defeated by Zhong Fei, he looked at Zhong Fei with a kind of resentment. Zhong Ida, you remember, one day I will come back. Zhong Zhuo said angrily. You've said this sentence many times. Don't you change it when you leave? A sentence over and over again. Don't you feel ashamed? Zhong Fei picked up his ears while unceremoniously despising his family hundreds of years ago. Zhong Zhuo didn't speak, just looked at Zhong Fei coldly. The first time he felt that compared to commanding the troops, force was also a very important evaluation. He wanted to reach the height of internal qi leaving the body. The first time he was so eager that he could surpass the current level. At least at that time he would not be as weak as this time. Guan Yu glanced back at Zhong Zhuo coldly, and in an instant, Zhong Zhuo's whole body was cold, and the godlike sword light of that day still remained in his heart, and the silent Guan Yu was far more deterrent than Zhong Fei in his heart. Zilong leads the troops behind the palace. Chen Shi ignored the expressions of Zhu Shou and Zhong Zhuo, and directly gave orders to Zhao Yun and Tai Shutzi. He didn't want to be attacked, and there was not much security that could give Chen Shi a sense of security in ancient times when this kind of casualty was extremely likely to collapse. Hey! Zhao Yun and Tai Shitzi roared loudly, completely ignoring Zhu Shou and Zhong Zhuo. Even in Zhu Shou's view, this sentence was actually addressed to him. It can be seen that Chen Shi doesn't want to provoke a war at this time, but the biggest difference between the two is that Chen Shi is younger and bolder. Zichuan, you won this time, I will write it down, but in the future, you and I will fight again, and I will not show mercy because you let me go today. After saying that, he clasped his hands and said with a cold face, He. You won't be able to meet me then, and I won't come back to Jizhou. Chen Shi smiled and turned around to leave. Looking at the Taishan departments that slowly withdrew from Jizhou, Zhong Zhuo looked angry. County Governor, don't we chase and kill? No, those materials are a lesson. In my opinion, it is worth it, and this lesson made me discover that there is such a huge hidden danger in Jizhou at present, and Chen Zichuan can take advantage of this hidden danger to take advantage of the trend and directly complete an incredible feat with 1,000 people. Doesn't it make us think deeply? Zhu Shou stared at Zhong Zhuo and said, he had noticed the problems of the Jizhou army in this incident. These questions are much more important than those materials. The military and political affairs of Jizhou must be improved. It can't be like now, you must have the ability to be authoritarian when necessary, otherwise it will likely become meat on the chopping board. Zhu Shou said strongly, without this right, it is likely that this situation will still occur. As for how Yuan Shao passed there, Zhu Shou did not think about it. He was thinking about the future of Jizhou, not for himself, and Zhu Shou believed that Yuan Shao would gladly agree. Chen Shi was also thinking about the carriage that turned Mount Tai. The problems existing in Jizhou, Taishan definitely existed, even if because the territory is small now, the fierce generals can suppress the hidden dangers, but sooner or later the same problems as Jizhou will be exposed. As for how Liu Bei should pass on that side, Chen Shi reluctantly thought of a way to deal with it. Step by step, generally speaking, the situation of the Taishan army is much better than Jizhou. It's hard to find a balance through the ages. Chen Shi smiled bitterly. Even if it is a special time, there will be a big problem. After all, this is the soil that nourishes ambition in any era. Even Chen Shi himself cannot guarantee that he can still calm his heart when he has always maintained his arbitrary power. For this point, Chen Shi admires Zhuge Liang very much. For thousands of years, arbitrary and authoritarian, military and political grasp, but he is still the only one who remains respectful to the emperor. This kind of determination Chen Shi thinks that he can't even do it himself. It has nothing to do with wisdom, nor about vision. Power has been like this since ancient times. The world can make men fall deeper and deeper and deeper and finally can't extricate themselves. But the only game that is not happy is politics, drunken on the lap of the beauty, awakening to the power of the world, unchanged for thousands of years. There is no way to stop this erosion with lofty ambitions. The white sand is black in nirvana is nothing more than this. Even if the heart is light, once touched, it will be corrupted. These Chen Shi has known for a long time. It is impossible to maintain the original color in the dye vat. This is also why Chen Shi directly handed over power when he left Fengao, because he didn't want to give himself a reason. Once he had the first reason, Chen Shi couldn't be sure that he would refuse the second time, and the best choice if he didn't want to fall was not to make contact. The current situation is because of certain situations that have to be dealt with, and certain people must be given arbitrary power under specific circumstances, and this power is the best way to breed ambition. But if this right is not given, this kind of Jizhou monkey-playing incident will occur if you continue to ask for instructions under specific circumstances. Forget it, don't think about these things yet. After this incident, Liu Xiang, Lu Zijing, and the others will definitely notice this aspect and leave it to them to deal with. Chen Shi silently looked up at the roof of the carriage. He had already done what he had to do, and the hidden dangers had been pointed out, and now it was up to him to solve this problem. Zizhong. Chen Shi opened the car window and shouted to Mi Zhu, who was riding a horse outside. What's the matter? Mi Zhu returned to the road. Let your tip-off pay more attention to Zhu Gong and this treatment, as well as Yuan Shao's reaction. Chen Shi said in a low voice. Zichuan, you can use Mount Tai's own intelligence line. Why use the Mi families? Mi Zhu asked with a strange expression. Taishan's intelligence line is now fully exploring Yangzhou and Yuzhou, and I can't add more burden to them. As for Jizhou's intelligence, I just want a result. Chen Shi shook his head and said. Based on the previous hidden dangers, as well as Zhu Shou's intelligence, Yuan Shao's mentality, Chen Shi felt that he might understand why when Yuan Shao's situation was good in history, he wanted to let his 3 sons and his favorite nephew Zhou Gan each lead a state, not because Yuan Benchu had a problem with his brain, but compared to the threat caused by the 3 sons and high-ranking cadres each leading a state, it was far less than the threat caused by handing over the land to other generals and the military and political grasp. Thinking about it again, by the Cao Wei period, the actual controllers of the frontier seemed to be the direct descendants of the Cao family and the Xiahou family, and the other generals, no matter how strong they were, needed to stand aside, which means that at that stage, all the princes understood the necessity of arbitrary dictatorship at a specific time. But what is more clear is the danger. Chapter 140 Chen Shi's Vision of Governance. Thinking of this, Chen Shi couldn't help but think of Guan Yu, who sat in Jingzhou during the Three Kingdoms period, which also belonged to the military and political grasp. Liu Bei did not have so many sons, nor was he so clan, just two righteous brothers, so Guanzhong became the first choice. It seems that from this aspect, everyone is so harmonious, except for Yuan Shao's tragedy, others seem to be nothing, but Li Yang and Chen Shi in the Shu Han dynasty are also fresh in their memory. As a lonely minister, a good hand in military and political affairs, do not go to Hanzhong to fight Wei State, propose to divide 5 counties as Baz Hu, what do you want to do? Because of this kind of thing must be thought about. Chen Shi felt that he had done enough now, he picked out this matter in advance, and then he didn't need to talk anymore, sit and see what method Lu Su and others can come up with, this kind of dangerous thing, it's better not to talk, after all, as far as Chen Shi feels that his politics are really not good. 3 days later, Chen Shi's frame finally moved to Licheng, and the rest of the things did not need him to arrange. Stepping on this land, Chen Shi's biggest feeling was safety. Jizhou's territory that could almost be classified as an enemy, walking on it, no matter how cautious, Chen Shi felt uneasy. Finally back. After Chen Shi's frame passed through the gate of Licheng and the army turned around the barracks, this war was completely over. Congratulations to Zichuan on the victory. Fa Zheng said sourly, looking at the baggage trucks. Fa Zheng knew that Chen Shi had won a big victory this time, and even if the Nampi treasury was not emptied, it was estimated that there would be nothing left. It is also a helpless move. I was also betting on Zhu Gongyu's mind, but fortunately, I won. Otherwise, it will be really troublesome. I think you have also seen the biggest problem of the military system now. Chen Shi said with a wry smile on his face. What are you pretending? If you don't guess Zhu Gongyu's mind, you will definitely not take risks, although the Zhen family is related to the Grand Plan in a few years, but it is not worth your risk. Is Zhenmi really beautiful? Fa Zheng first despised, and then asked with a curious face. It's beautiful, but there are countless beauties in the world. Zhenmi may not be one of the leaders, and you will understand when I return to Mount Tai and I will take you to see Mi Zhan. Chen Shi paused for a while, thought about Zhen Mi's appearance for a moment before speaking. For Chen Shi, Zhen Mi's appearance was not as important as her demeanor. Mi Zhan. Fa Zheng was stunned. Don't mess around, I am a married husband, and I can't afford to marry Mi Zhu's sister. The sister of the world's most wealthy businessman Tilda Fa Zheng said with a long voice. It was obvious that their family's education was still in Fa Zheng's mind before, and the businessman was still a cheap business in his eyes. Put away your expression, there is still a problem with your vision, and it seems that it will take a long time of education. Chen Shi glanced at Fa Zheng. Then he turned his head and said indifferently, I won't let you be an official until you understand that you are wrong. Chen Zichuan never thought of reversing this way of thinking that had been fixed for hundreds of years, and what the people thought was the people's business, but now that he was an official. What you have to think about is not who is a bitch, what is a cheap karma. What you have to think about is how to make the people under your rule rich. Whether you use the strategy of ignoring the people or the method of education. Anyway, your requirement is to let the people under your rule survive harmoniously, well fed and clothed, and it is best that each of them is simple and kind, which is enough. In this era where giving food is kindness, in Chen Shi's view, it doesn't matter what is wrong with the officials' own virtues, whether it is the slightest retribution, or they like to be greedy, or what kind of womanizer, these are not important. The important thing is that as long as you can govern this place well, that's fine. Chen Shi never felt that he was a typical example of uprightness. Can you imagine that taking a concubine in a certain period of time is not to harm people but to save people? Can you imagine that marrying a 10-room concubine is just to save 10 people? These seemingly unreasonable things happened during the Three Kingdoms period. In 193 years of history, Qingzhou finally reached the level of no one in the wild and no grass due to natural and man-made disasters, and people died. Those who survived were all fanatics who ate corpses and plundered others, which is why no one of the people opposed such harsh laws after Cao Cao took over Qingzhou, because no matter how harsh Cao Cao was, there was at least a way to live, and the people of Qingzhou could no longer see a way to live, and the heavy tax rate of 60% was no longer exploitation at this time, but a benevolence. Because of this, when the recruitment order was issued, Chen Shi almost asked Liu Bei to write that he was meritocracy, but in view of the situation, Chen Shi still endured letting Liu Bei write that regardless of his background, he only asked about the virtuous. For the current Chen Zichuan, as long as the officials can make the people well fed and clothed, even if they make the mistake of bullying men and women and forcing concubines, Chen Shi will turn a blind eye. But if some people are starving to death under the rule, they still dare to do this kind of thing. Chen Shi doesn't mind Manchong's killing of each other, and Chen Shi never minds Manchong's use of cool official methods for these people. However, as far as the current situation in Taishan and Qingzhou is concerned, as long as the magistrate governs his subordinates well, and if he likes the daughter of a certain family, as long as he signals a little, even if the other party's family is unwilling, the villagers will make them willing, and in the end there is no need to do that kind of force thing at all. For example, now Zhao Yun only needs to wander around Mount Tai, find a family to drink water when he is thirsty, and the one who brings tea and water is definitely the daughter of the family, and as long as Zhao Yun shows a little meaning, this group of people will not mind. Ha! Fa Zhang was surprised. Why did Chen Shi, who was optimistic about him before, now became this tone? Didn't he just say something that was not interested in Mi Zhen? How did this happen? Keep working hard. When do you understand? I recommend you to be the Prime Minister of Qi. Chen Shi patted Fa Zhang on the shoulder and turned away. If Fa Zhang can't turn his vision, he will always be a military strategist. Maybe the position of military strategist is good in troubled times, but because there is no military power, once it reaches peacetime, it is equivalent to nothing. Once he gained power, but in the blink of an eye, he left a title, and it was absolutely impossible to bear such a huge change according to Fa Zhang's careful eye, and if he was allowed to retire, he would definitely be dissatisfied. But let him do other things, don't understand some truths, and only use resourcefulness to calculate, sooner or later something will happen. Ha! Fa Zhang was happy at first, and then began to scratch his head. He didn't know that there was a problem with what he said before. Forget it, I have time to communicate with others. I'm going to decide on the position of Qi Guoxiang. Chapter 141 The Agronomist Who Came from the Palace. Hua Xiong is very irritable now. There are already many people who have come to beat his horse's attention. The most shameless thing is that there is a county magistrate who actually stole Hua Xiong's horse and prepared to arrest Hua Xiong. Can this be tolerated? In the end, Hua Xiong beat the county magistrate to death and left. There was no way. Liao Yu also warned him not to kill officials in Yangzhou as much as possible, and it was best for both sides to leave some affection now. Hua Xiong generally can't listen to people's words. His temperament is upright, and what he can do normally is to charge into battle. But fortunately, this time there is Liao Yu, who just suppressed his temper and did not slaughter all the people who paid attention to the horses. Chu Hanmu warns you, if you continue to run around, I will tie you up. Hua Xiong took the cookie's collar and walked towards the carriage like a chicken, then opened the curtain of the carriage and threw the cookie in. Hey, Zijian, that's a big ear of rice. Let me pick it. I'm a household official. Good seeds are very important. Saying that Cookie was about to rush out, but unfortunately Hua Xiong sat directly on the yoke and pressed him in. This guy had collected a lot of so-called big ears of good seeds along the way, and once almost fought with others for a mature ear of rice. You are endless. You have collected a lot, and half of the conflict between us and the people of Yangzhou is caused by you picking rice ears privately. Hua Xiong glared angrily at the young man. Who asked you to bring me out in a sack? I farmed well in Shanglin Garden. You came up and asked me if I could plant cotton. I said yes. You put me directly in the sack. Do you know that you are a threat official? Cookie's mouth is also very sharp. At least Hua Xiong is not an opponent at all. You say I threaten officials. You are still farming in Shanglin Garden, which belongs to the royal garden. Those who cultivate it privately will die. Hua Xiong said stubbornly. Alas, Cookie sighed. His look of contempt deeply hurt Hua Xiong. This guy's expression and tone will always be enough to hit people hard. Go, bring me the previous big rice ears. I want to study it. Hua Xiong held back his anger. He was already tossed by the sack he had put in before, and said to the soldiers behind, give that person some money, and the ears of rice will be uprooted. Although Hua Xiong is a reckless man, because Liao Yu's education is still in place, this guy is still very good for capable scribes. Especially this Cookie claims to be proficient in farming, and Shanglin Garden has already planted flowers. After Hua Xiong finished paying tribute, he sneaked to Shanglin Garden to order what Chen Shi wanted. As a result, it didn't take long to see a farmland, which did grow well, and it was estimated that it could produce an extra stone. Even if this land was cultivated a large acre, it was ruthless enough. Hua Xiong walked to Cookie, who was researching in the field with a smile, and asked, Sir, do you know which cotton is? And where are the seeds? I heard that Shanglin Garden is planted with exotic flowers and plants. How to plant wheat? As a result, Cookie glanced at Hua Xiong and then looked contemptuous. Shanglin Garden is a place to plant exotic flowers and plants. Cotton is that, seeds are in that house. As for wheat. Do you think that a large acre of wheat with a yield of more than 5 stones is not a strange flower? Hua Xiong was startled, and he also planted a field. Naturally, I understand what the concept of 5 stones is in an acre of real estate, although there is good water and soil, but 5 stones are scary enough. According to this, the person in front of you is a character. Thinking of this, Hua Xiong did not hesitate, and went over with an unceremoniously shy face and asked, that gentleman, your surname is noble. In the lower Hua Xiong, Hua Zijian. Household cookies. Chu Hanmu. Cookie replied proudly. Hua Xiong didn't feel anything about whether he was arrogant or not. His habit was that capable people should be arrogant, so he continued to strike up a conversation. That Mr. Chu, do you still have the seeds of this wheat? Can you give me points? It's all there, take it all if you want. Cookie was very satisfied with Hua Xiong's low posture. You don't need to leave some seeds for your husband? Hua Xiong asked. Seeds or something, as long as I'm here, can you? Cookie said, and then Hua Xiong took out the sack when Cookie was proud, went directly from head to toe, and put a sack on his back and left. After all, a scribe who is said to be able to plant anything is rare, and rare talents packed and taken away, which was explained by Chen Shi when he came. Because of this, Cookie felt that he was sorry that he was put in a sack if he didn't put Hua Xiong to death. In other words, he was also the head of the Chu family in Ezhou, although there were few people in the family, but it was also a long-standing family, otherwise he would not be able to go to Shanglin Garden to mess around. Because of this, Cookie made trouble for Hua Xiong all the way. Of course, his way of making trouble even Hua Xiong couldn't find out. A household cow is a researcher of grain, according to people's sayings. Picking out the best seeds is a professional habit. Pulling out a seedling, determining the fertility of the soil or something Hua Xiong doesn't understand at all, but it feels like it's very powerful. So he can only endure the headache and wipe Cookie's buttocks. For example, according to this research, it was found that if you plant soybeans for 1 year, and then burn soybean stalks or something in the previous field, the yield will be higher when you plant grain in the second year. In short, although this person has a relatively bad personality, his actual ability is still good, which is why even Jioshu and Liaoyu can tolerate this person who adds blockages every day. An acre of land can produce more than 1 bucket of grain can save people. Not to mention this person who claims to be able to produce 3 or 5 more buckets. This kind of person must be tolerated. Hua Xiong endured the feeling of dizziness while comforting Cookie, telling him not to get out of the carriage anymore. Since that feeling of peeping appeared, Hua Xiong slowly became vigilant, although he didn't believe that Cao would have the courage to rob him. But sometimes he had to guard, and just as he was comforting Cookie, the warrior's intuition made him feel dangerous. Secretly made a move, and the whole team slowly transformed into a defensive formation similar to a circle formation. But Hua Xiong knew very well that this was the only defensive formation he had learned from Liaoyu that he could use skillfully, and he didn't know what it was called. General, are we going to kill it? A personal guard next to Cao Hong asked. More than 4,000 horses, just pass in front of me. I can't stand it if I don't grab it. Known as the Iron Rooster, the miser, the future money taisho Cao Zilian was staring at Hua Xiong's horses. For this vote he borrowed hundreds of people from Xiahou Dun, Xiahou Yuan, Cao Ren, Li Jian, and Li Jin, and after a few days of training, Cao Hong was finally ready to squat at Hua Xiong. Xiahou Dun, Xiahou Yuan, Cao Ren, and these people all knew what Cao Hong wanted to do, and even Cao knew it, but they all turned a blind eye. Cao didn't even do a good job, he didn't admit it. 4,000 war horses, no inferior horses, what a big income for Cao, who now has 0 cavalry. Chapter 142 Bandits and bandits have no human rights. Hua Xiong carefully drove the carriage in the middle. Liaoyu, Jioshu, Si Yang, and Cookie's carriage were all surrounded by Hua Xiong. He could feel that someone was constantly peeking, slowly mobilizing his subordinates, and gradually stabilizing the position. As for Liaoyu and Jioshu, they would not shoot here unless they had to. Unlike Liu Bei, Cao Mengde knew Liaoyu and Jioshu. After making sure to throw away all the marks on his body, Cao Hong casually grabbed a handful of dirt and wiped it on his face, and then rushed down with a roar. Hua Xiong was directly stunned. How could there be such a second-hand goods? He was still worried about the other party's ambush from what direction. But he didn't expect to directly kill a second-hand goods, so what were these guys preparing for before? Wu Na little thief. Cao Hong greeted Hua Xiong in a not-so-familiar Bingju accent. I opened this road, I planted this tree, I want to pass by from now on, and leave the money to buy the road. Hua Xiong was stunned again, this time before Hua Xiong could speak. Cookie couldn't help it. The thief there, you opened this road, you planted this tree, this road is the official road you opened? Which dynasty are you the emperor of? The Han emperor is still in Chang'an. Are you going to rebel? This tree was planted by you. What do I think of this tree is 400 years old. You are a person from the former Han dynasty? Outsiders? Is there a way to achieve immortality? Cookie directly blinded Cao Hong with a question comparable to a series of cannons, and he didn't know how to answer at all, so he could only expect Ari to say a reason, and then Cookie glanced at Cao Hong contemptuously. I've never seen such a stupid bandit. What nonsense did you talk about before the robbery? It's better to see who has a bigger fist. But now it's stupid. Hua Xiong pressed the cookie into the carriage helplessly. This guy is very powerful, but there are some things that are completely unnecessary, and now saying them is completely equivalent to causing trouble. The whole army assaults. Hua Xiong roared, and then the original circle burst open suddenly, divided into 8 parts, and Jioshu and Liaoyu, who was sitting in the carriage at the same time. Both shot at the same time. Joshu rarely used his spiritual talent, and his eyes seemed to be able to see the scene in the next second. Relying on Li Ryu's spiritual power to directly fit the trajectory, and then relying on his understanding of the 8 gates heavenly lock, he will abruptly manifest the 8 gates. Then a sound of a piano that seemed to be a symphony of gold and iron coming from the sky, with a hint of killing blood and the magnificence of the iron horse Jingo, was directly injected into the military formation, and in an instant, the originally high morale exploded directly, forcing the originally slow flow of clouds to turn quickly as if injected with new energy. In an instant, the formation that originally seemed free and loose became murderous. A layer of brilliance appeared on everyone, although the colors were not exactly the same, but with the passage of time, the 8 colors from white to black were mixed into a gray patch that directly covered the entire team. Cao Hong was directly frightened when he saw this scene. As long as he was still a general, he knew what was going on in this situation, and the next moment Cao Hong rushed up the hillside and hid. There is absolutely no good end to fighting this kind of pervert, although he has prepared 10,000 soldiers, but this is not to fill this big pit. After this grey fog rose, it had no effect on Hua Xiong's vision for those in the formation. But from the outside, even if your eyesight is comparable to Lu Bu, don't want to see through it. The formation of a purely defensive yin man, but the bad thing is that the fog itself has no defensive effect on the physical matter. That is to say, if people carry out a crossbow arrow covering strike, they should still be pounced, and they will not be transferred by will. Although it was the first time Cao Hong had seen this situation, he was suddenly frightened by the previous rumors, and he turned his head and ran away without saying a word. 4,000 war horses were tempting enough. The problem was that there was such a godlike enemy to protect him. If he wanted to fill the oil like that before, it is estimated that he can be beaten and collapsed in a face. He is here to rob, not to die. Hua Xiong stared in the direction of the hillside with a knife, scolding the other party in his heart for running faster than a rabbit. But because of this, Hua Xiong did not doubt Cao Hong's identity. Only bandits would be so shameless, and run away when they said they would run. I didn't expect that the Cao family would have a family background, but an iron rooster who cares about everything and can calculate anything with money. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the anger in his chest, Hua Xiong planned to use this group of bandits without human rights to establish his power. Wu and a thief, listen well, I am General Zhao Wu, Taishan Hua Zijian. Today I will let you wait to see my power. As he spoke, Hua Xiong's sword light suddenly burst out of the mist. Compared with the frenzy when he grabbed the horse in Yongju before, this time the aura almost did not conflict with Hua Xiong's original aura, and harmoniously integrated into Hua Xiong's power. A fiery red knife light of nearly 300 meters, with a scorching breath, directly slashed on the hillside, and the soil slope tens of meters high was split in two. And even traces of flames were seen in the cracked places. The general is mighty. The soldiers under Hua Xiong roared, with a fierce general leading the team. The best point is to raise morale, and the stronger the morale, the faster the rate of calling the chi of heaven and earth from the surroundings, and the faster the cloud chi flows, which is why when the strength of both sides is the same, a fierce general leading the team is enough to break the original balanced balance. A knife separated the soil slope. Hua Xiong no longer lingered. The life and death of the other party is not important. The important thing is deterrence. Today's scene is enough to shock those guys with ill intentions in Yangju. All accelerate, day and night. Do not avoid the city, and march forcefully. Rush to Mount Tai in one day. Hua Xiong roughly estimated the distance, and then determined that with the current situation, he should be able to rush to Mount Tai with all his might, so he no longer hides his whereabouts, and Zong Bie will also come to greet him when he reaches the border of Mount Tai. Hey! All the soldiers replied loudly, and then began to trot under the leadership of Hua Xiong. This kind of thing was not too difficult for them. Hua Xiong does not deduct food, and if there are rewards, captures, or something, he will also share the profits with his soldiers. After all, these are all habits developed in Shiliang, that kind of place of suffering, to gather the loyalty of his subordinates. In addition to taking the lead, the rest is to share the joys and sorrows. The simple way is that the general has made a lot of money, and the soldiers under his command must also be able to share. Not asking for more, only asking for this share. So the new soldiers who joined Hua Xiong's team really support Hua Xiong. It is precisely because they can eat enough that each of Hua Xiong's soldiers has cultivated their first internal chi under the leadership of veterans. Although fighting is not very useful, but their endurance has really increased a lot. Cao Hong nested in the floating soil. Before under Hua Xiong's huge knife light, he endured fear and did not use internal energy, and directly rolled on the ground to avoid the scope of Hua Xiong's attack, because he knew that once he used internal energy, he would definitely not be able to escape, and even 10,000 soldiers would be defeated, which was a huge blow to his eldest brother Cao Cao, who had just ascended to the position of governor of Yangju, so he would rather die here than be exposed. However, to Cao Hong's fortune, Hua Xiong obviously regarded him as an ant, attacked him at will, and did not deliberately target him, and it was precisely because of this that he left a life, and now Cao Hong didn't even have time to rise in fear. He wanted to inform Cao Cao, don't let people continue to intercept. This time the person who came to buy a horse was not a nobody, but who was shown in front of Sisui Pass. That was a fierce general who killed masters like chopping melons and vegetables. And now this scene must be notified to Cao Cao. It's really scary. Chapter 143. Let's find someone to support us too. Cao Hong's nearly 1,000 reinforcements not far from the front were directly dispersed by Hua Xiong. Everyone was not fools. They ran faster than rabbits, and when they saw this kind of incapable character, they would never carry it to death if it was not necessary. Although the speed of Hua Xiong's march was fast, after all, it was still thousands of people moving together, which was not as fast as the speed of a few riders going all out to convey the message. When Hua Xiongcai led his troops to Dongping, Cao Cao, who was sitting in Shanyang, had already learned the latest information. Alas, there are so many good ministers and fierce generals of Liu Xuande. I didn't expect that such a major event as tribute would be handed over to Hua Xiong, so as to have a face-to-face with His Majesty and wash away the stains on Hua Xiong's body. I thought it was just a ceremonial officer to deal with this matter, but I didn't expect it to be Hua Xiong. It seems that this person is aiming for the world. Cao Cao sighed deeply after reading the information. Since Chen Shi broke through the millions of yellow turbans and gathered his troops, Cao Mengde has been staying in Shanyang to study what is going on with Liu Xuande. It is said that the situation of Mount Tai cannot be better than Chen Liu. Liu Xuande has the support of Dao Qian, and Cao Mengde also has Zhong Miao to send grain. Why do the more you understand, the bigger the gap? So Cao Mengde put aside his plan to get on fire in Mount Tai, and began to study Mount Tai carefully, and the more he studied, the more he felt that Chen Shi's way was very promising. But the problem was that Mount Tai's method was only suitable for Mount Tai, because there was no family there. Jian Wei, who was standing aside like a wall, hummed and didn't speak, but speaking out at this time was enough to show his dissatisfaction. Evil, what do you have to say? Cao Cao knew what Jian Wei was thinking when he heard Jian Wei's humming sound, so he smiled and asked. Jian Wei thought that he was not weaker than him Hua Xiong. Please also ask the Lord to give me a chance to fight me. Jian Wei said angrily with a clenched fist, and the muscle pimples on his body seemed to crush the armor. Ha ha ha. Cao Mengde laughed. He Liu Xuande is about Zhong, and I also have a fierce general like you. Let's go stop Hua Xiong. I also want to see the formation that Lian said all at once. Just when Cao Cao was about to take his guard Jian Wei to meet Hua Xiong, Zun Yu appeared. Lord, Yongju Zhongyao came to report. Li Yu Guosai led 300,000 troops to defeat Lu Biyu, and Wang Zisha died at the foot of Chang'an. After saying that, Zun Yu handed the bamboo slip of the order to Cao Cao, and then Cao Cao's face became more gloomy the more he looked at it. How dare a thief do this? In a fit of rage, he got up directly and smashed the letters on several cases. The Lord also asked to calm his anger. Simply, the Emperor is fine, we still have time to accumulate strength. Snatch back the Son of Heaven. Zun Yu tried his best to say calmly, the Emperor's suffering is simply unacceptable for a person like Zun Yu. Cao Cao sighed, and the original idea of blocking Hua Xiong was extinguished. When Ruo, is our food enough? Only 1 month's food remains. In addition, the fields we reclaimed last year have basically been abandoned, and then we have quite a few vacancies in our seeds and agricultural tools for summer planting, and even if we plant them on time in summer, there are still 4 months before the autumn harvest. The most important thing is that we have more than 500,000 more refugees. Zun Yu said helplessly, no food is always a big problem. Cao Cao didn't hear Zun Yu's words at all. His previous question was just to keep Zun Yu's mind from focusing on his expression, so as not to notice anything. Cao Cao's current mind is still on the previous intelligence. Situ Wang Yun jumped off the city wall and died. Liu Xie actually did not dare to say a word to defend Wang Yun under the coercion of Li Ji and Guosai, so he could only lower his head and let Wang Yun jump off the city wall in despair, and then order the whole family to be killed and abandoned in the wilderness. Cao Cao didn't know how to describe his current mood, whether he was disappointed or frustrated. Even if Liu Xie says a word of protection, Wang Yun probably will not regret his choice. Even if he jumps off the city wall, he will scold Li Ji Guosai as a traitor and thief. If he is waiting for something underground, he will definitely not jump off the city wall without saying a word. And after that, there will be countless people with lofty ideals who will enthusiastically serve the country with their deaths. But Liu Xie gave in and didn't dare to say a word. What are you afraid of? Li Ji and Guosai could not and did not dare to kill him. The Emperor Liu Bian died, the princes attacked Dong, and now Li Ji, Guosai could not resist the coalition of the princes of the world at all. They did not dare to really hurt Liu Xie, at most to coerce. If the king regards his ministers as brothers and sisters, then the ministers regard the king as his confidants. If the king treats his ministers like dogs and horses, then the ministers regard the king as the people of the country. if the ruler treats his ministers like weeds, then the ministers regard the ruler as enemies. A sentence appeared in Cao Mengde's heart, and then suddenly it seemed as if a layer of cage had faded, and the momentum became magnificent. Do you treat your ministers like mustards? Cao Mengde sighed, and a seed slowly took root in his heart. Lord. Zun Yu frowned slightly. When Ruo don't care, I'm just a little sentimental because of this information. Now let's continue to talk about business. Is our food gap big? Cao Cao smiled and apologized to Zun Yu, not caring about his identity as a monarch at all. The gap is very large. Even if there is a Yangju family to help, there are too many differences. Generally speaking, the treasury is not enough to make up for the difference, and we can only deal with this matter in other ways. Zun Yu's eyes flashed with a hint of gratitude, and then he calmed down. Sometimes he had to be calm enough to complete the plan. What is the plan? Cao Cao said excitedly that the problem of food had always been his heart disease, and Zun Yu could actually come up with a way. Since we have a shortage of food in Yangju, we will eat from the enemy. We have no food, but Taishan, Zuzhu, and Yuzhou all have food. Zun Yu said with a cold light in his eyes. After the princes attacked Dong, the forces of the world could be divided into two forces. Dongzhuo were in Guanxi and the princes in Guangdong, but the princes of Guangdong were divided into two forces centered on Jizhou and Yuzhou because of Yuan Benchu and Yuan Highway, and General Bima suddenly rose up and intervened in it, which is why Chen Zichuan was still able to suppress Jizhou with weakness before, because he was putting pressure on Yuan Shao. He was strengthening his combination with the forces of magic, and he was moving his whole body, and he could get a lot of support for this, and then he would have enough time to recuperate. Zun Yu slowly revealed the situation in the world. And we must also choose a force now, although we have always been on the same road as Yuan Benchu before, but after all, there is no alliance. This time we will also strengthen the combination with Xiao's forces. This world is not only he Liu Xuanda can get the support of others, some people also want to support us. A warm smile appeared on Zun Yu's face. Seeing Zun Yu's smile, Cao Cao was immediately relieved. Every time Zun Yu showed a smile, it could be said that the situation was decided. This time since Zun Yu said so, then it couldn't be a joke. Chapter 144, it's just a matter of a few words. Zuzhu Dao Gongzu is the best choice, but because Zuzhu's gateway Taishan County is in the hands of Liu Xuanda, we do not border it at all, so it has become an empty phrase to borrow food. Zun Yu said calmly, so we can only use the weak to force the strong like Liu Xuanda. Let's fight here. Cao Cao stared at the location pointed by Zun Yu on the map. Yuan Highway is indeed a good choice, but I am afraid that I will fall short by myself. He Liu Xuanda borrowed the power of Gongsun Boisgouet. Why can't we borrow Liu Jingxing's hand to complete this matter? You must know that Nanyang County, a rich and noble place, is subordinate to Jingju, and now Liu Jingxing has completed his rule over Jingju. Zun Yu said with a smile. Really? Cao Cao asked in surprise. Even if it is fake, Zhizai also made it real. I heard that Yuan Gongxian plans to take Sun Wentai's eldest son as his adopted son, and with Yuan Gonggong's righteousness, there will be a battle between Sun Bofu's strength and Liu Jingxing. Zun Yu said the current situation in a calm tone. He planned to open up the channel with Liu Biao, and easily beat the loose state of Yuzhou into an enclave, and then launch to lead the sheep, and the money and grain people got everything. Cao Cao stared at the place in Fan County where Zun Yu pointed out, and estimated that only 3,000 people could take that city, and 90% of the loose state would be gone for Yuzhou. The eyes slid to the right along Zun Yu's fingertips. Zun Yu's final goal appeared in Zuzhu, and the loose state instantly boarded Zuzhu, a big dog family, and the Taishan soldiers were hard bones, Cao Cao admitted, but the Danyang soldiers who were abolished by Cao Bao were properly experienced soldiers. And steadily pointed straight to the East China Sea, Pengcheng. No matter how you move your nest, you will be under Cao Cao's sword. But it's a bit. To challenge Zuzhu and Yuzhou at the same time, Cao Mengde thought for a long time and almost recognized Zun Yu's strategy. But he was a little hesitant. After all, no matter how weak Zuzhu was, it still had soldiers and food, and as for Yuan Shu, it was the top force in the world after Dongzhuo's downfall. Don't worry about this. Nanyang is the richest place in the world. As long as Liu Jingxing shows a little voyeurism, Yuan Highway will not tolerate it, even if that place belongs to Jingju. Zun Yu said with a smile. As for Dao Gongzu, if it had been 10 years ago, I would not dare to despise it. But now, if the sun sets in the west, I will no longer have the original sharpness, but I will only give and take. With Zun Yu's words, Cao Cao no longer worried. He really needed a grain-producing land. Without such a place he would never be at peace. Even if he could borrow grain from others, he would not be at ease, and any prince who aspired to the world would not put his lifeline in the hands of others. Not to mention that Cao Mengde's side has begun to pay attention to Yuan Highway. Chen Shi had already begun to feel melancholy on the way back to Fenggao, and the gap between officials was too big. About 1. For million yellow turbans, according to the Han dynasty system, officials need about 140, and small officials need at least 700. Well, 700 is not enough. It's just that according to Chen Shi's calculations, the 700 officials can barely run the agricultural affairs of Qingju. As long as there are no too troublesome problems, the entire shelf of government affairs can basically be functioned. This is the disadvantage of not having a local family. If there is a local family, as long as people are thrown within the scope of the family's control, there is no need to worry about anything else, and the family itself will deal with it. For example, a big family like the Zhen family, even if you throw in 300,000 refugees, they will automatically plan it. Of course, if 1 million is thrown down, the Zhen family will not be able to play. When Chen Shi returned with his troops, he was greeted by Liu Bei himself to lead the civil and military officials who stayed behind, giving Chen Shi enough face. However, the latest news is that Guan Yu's wife, who rushed over with her son Guan Ping from Hedong Xieliang after learning the news of Guan Yu recently. But it seems that this teenager who looks very similar to Guan Yu is a little afraid of his father's majesty and does not dare to get close to Guan Yu, and Guan Yu is completely because he does not speak to put too much pressure on his son. Looking at Guan Ping, who already has the degree of qi refinement, Chen Shi can only say that this gene is really good enough, exercise more in the future, not to mention compare with Guan Yu, how to say that it is also a fight with Hua Xiong, this figure, this muscle, like one, who said that Liu Bei has no backup. Guan Ping's high force is enough to top the Cao family and the Xiahou family. For people like Chen Shi, the ability to fight with muscle height is innate. You want more, there is really no other way than to return to the furnace to rebuild. As for leading troops to fight, calculation and planning can be acquired, although it is not as good as geniuses, but the posture of a middleman can still be educated. This Chen Shi is very confident. Well, for example, later generations of universities can produce middle-level talents in batches, but it is unreliable to educate geniuses. About 1.8 meters tall, strong muscles, wearing a single coat called Chen Shi, Zhong Fei, and others' uncle. Where does this strong sense of disobedience come from? It is said that Guan Ping looks like he is 14 years old. According to Zhong Fei's bragging tone, 16 years old should be brought to the battlefield. Guan Yu, who killed people, had been on the run for 14 years, and now he was still very excited to see his son Guan Ping, and Liu Bei, Zhong Fei, Zhao Yun, and Tai Shizi were also excited, and several big bachelors were very interested in the sudden appearance of this nephew. Back in Fengao, the soldiers and horses returned to the camp. Handed over the military power, Chen Shi suddenly felt relaxed, and directly ordered someone to set up a car home without saying a word. This is still because he can't ride a horse. If he can ride a horse, Chen Shi won't mind riding home. As for the fact that horses are not allowed in the city, Chen Shi can guarantee that there is absolutely no restraint on him, but it is said that Chen Shi has secretly observed several times, and it seems that it is not very possible to let horses hurt people, except for the fact that it may appear when the city is more crowded during the new year. But at that time, as long as it is not brain damage, it probably won't let the horse go. As a result, Chen Shi didn't go home yet. The frame was stopped by Lu Su, and after looking at it, there were only 3 or 5 steps left to reach the door of the house. Chen Shi directly ignored Lu Su, and passed the house 3 times without entering. That was Dayu. Chen Shi couldn't do the kind of thing that didn't go in at his door. A few words of warmth. What was the rush? And as a result, those few words were missing, and 8 years later, there was an extra son, alas tilde. In the words, the governor of Taishan County is Lu Su. He is now an unemployed vagrant, and it should be Lu Su's problem if something happens, and he has nothing to do with half a penny. What are you afraid of? Guo Jiao, Liu Yi, Lu Su, Man Chong, all 4 are squatting in Fengao. Just this lineup, what is really uncertain? It is precisely because of such a guarantee that Lu Su will make trouble again. Chen Shi is now resolutely ignoring, covering his ears and pretending not to know. Wait until he goes home to warm up, take a shower, sleep well, eat a bun and drink some porridge tomorrow morning, and then go to the Government Affairs Hall to hand over government affairs. This is the right reason. If you listen at this time, don't think about a good rest. Out of sight and not upset. Flashing is the king. Chapter 145. A piece of toilet paper also has its value. Lu Su was helpless, although it was not good for Chen Shi to start bothering him with government affairs just after returning from a big victory. But seeing Chen Shi's current rogue temperament, Lu Su knew that it was impossible to get help at least a day. But today was to remind Chen Shi that if nothing else, tomorrow Chen Shi would go to the Government Affairs Hall to take over the current trouble in Qingju. During dinner, Chen Shi stared at Fan Jian and Chen Lan's demeanor under the light, and finally determined that it was not that he hadn't paid attention before, but that there was really no similarity, so he smiled helplessly twice and started eating with his rice bowl, which didn't seem to be a matter of eyes. Lana, why do you say your husband has been staring at us? After Chen Shi finished eating and left, Fan Jian looked at Chen Lan a little strangely and asked, I don't know. Chen Lan shook her head blankly. She was still intoxicated by the change of identity that suddenly became Miss Chen. You don't pay attention to your husband's changes at all. Fan Jian sighed. Lana, you have to remember that no matter how your identity changes, you still rely on your husband in the end, and you are nothing without your husband. Fan Jian saw that Chen Lan's mind was not on Chenxi now, so he frowned slightly, thought about it and warned him. As for whether to listen or not, it was not a matter of Fan Jian. When Chenxi left, he didn't go out of his way to eavesdrop on his wives and concubines, but what he was more concerned about was that there seemed to be a lot of singers in his family. Ying Yang Yang was a piece, it looked very beautiful, but after all, it was a little unaccustomed, and there were actually 2 literate 13 or 14-year-old lolis. How did this rare product come from? Is this still produced in the yellow turbans? She didn't think deeply. It's nothing more than those ways. Even if you ask the maid, it's just to uncover the other party's scars. It's better to just pretend that you don't know what to do, since it was sent by Liu Bei. Just accept it, and it's the best way to do it without brains in other aspects. The next day, Chenxi slipped to the government office after 3 polls a day, and this time Lu Su, Liu Yi, and Guizhou were drunk into a puddle of mud. Man Chong, Jian Yong, Sun Qian, and Liu Yang were all waiting here. Yo, it's all early. Chenxi stretched out his hand and greeted, and they are all there. What day is it today? It's just waiting for you, Guizhou said with the smell of alcohol. I'm still looking for you. Yesterday, Xuan Dagong came to pick me up, and you actually said that you were drunk to death, and you didn't come. Do you still have face? Chenxi stared at Guizhou angrily. This guy has been drunk and dreamed of death recently. Good wine, you can taste it too. Guizhou grinned and said that there was nothing about him today. He was pulled by Lu Su to make up the numbers. Since he was making up the numbers, he didn't need a natural demeanor or anything. You. Wine. Chenxi smelled it, and suddenly became angry. You guy even dares to steal the spirits I use to disinfect. Don't you know that this wine will kill people? Ha! Guizhou used his right hand to pick out his ears a little uncoordinatedly. You said this spirit, I mixed your juice into it. It tastes so good. Saying that, he pushed away Chenxi's hand, slid softly into a pile, leaned on the chair and hugged the wine jug and continued to pour wine in big gulps. Chenxi was speechless, but Guizhou also knew to add something to it. Drinking like this, although it looked drunk, at least it would not kill anyone. Zichuan, please sit in the main seat. Originally Xuan Dagong was also there, but he left in advance before. Lu Su smiled and pointed to the first chair, signaling Chenxi to sit in the first circle chair, saying that for these people, the chair is not rude, it is a little more comfortable, and this raised couch is still very good for the legs. Chenxi no longer entangled Guizhou's problem, since Guizhou can get drunk here. That is to say, it has nothing to do with the military, it is purely a political matter, but what kind of political affairs need such a group of people to be prepared for? Sat on the first place casually, then took back the seal of the county governor, and then picked up the manuscript handed over by Lu Su, and browsed it roughly, and sure enough, something happened. After beating the yellow turbans, there are not many people to govern now, and it is directly a pot of porridge. Requisition of minor officials. Chenxi pressed the stack of paper on the desk that had only recently been studied. We don't have so many scribes at all, and to be precise, there are not so many literate, not to mention that even if there are probably not many willing to touch the yellow turbans. Liu Yi said with a wry smile, there are no literate people. Your Taishan Academy doesn't have many big and small cats now. How to requisition them? Even if a child of 12 or 13 has the ability, can he handle it? Man Chong asked with a dark face. Even if all those students of Taishan Academy went to Qingju, and they also took away the scribes attracted by Wei Xiao, there are still more than 1,000 people missing, according to our calculations. This situation requires one person to shoulder several positions, and it is really impossible to manage too many people, and one person managing 1,000 people is the limit. Lu Su said helplessly. No matter how capable you are, you need to have people below to implement it. Before Chenxi governed Mount Tai, he also relied on the nearly 100 students who came from Yingchuan to set up a framework, and then the ordinary students recruited by the recruitment order were also distributed to various parts of Mount Tai by Liu Bei. Because of this, Taishan can develop steadily, otherwise with a few people sitting here now, the talent is enough, but without subordinates, you can't do it if you run to death. Military management. I think military management is the best choice. Liu Yang excitedly suggested that since he saw the military control, he felt that this trick was simply the best way to deal with civil strife. Everyone glared angrily, and Jian Yong said directly to Liu Yang, a handsome guy, you should hurry up and publicize the situation in Mount Tai, you can just listen to this kind of thing. As soon as these words came out, Liu Yang was not annoyed, he just opened the folding fan, slapped it twice, and shook his head, showing his handsomeness. Chenxi smiled at Liu Yang. This was a celebrity recruited by Liu Bei when he recruited talents before. History records that this government was negative, and the plan was negative, but Liu Bei looked at him very pleasing to the eye, and he looked at Liu Bei very pleasing to the eye, so he stayed. For this celebrity who was talked about every day before, Lu Su and others felt that it was enough to raise it, and Chen Shi felt that this guy was also one of the 4 civil servants who followed Liu Bei all the way in history. Even if it was difficult, he would not leave him, although his ability was scumbag enough, but his loyalty was commendable, and he did not forget to make him a marquis after Liu Bei made a fortune in history. From this point of view, Liu Bei was good enough to the old minister, and he couldn't waste it like this. Chen Shi felt that even toilet paper had its usefulness, so he found something for him in line with Liu Yang's loyalty, publicity, whitewashing, well, blowing, giving him a large amount of activity funds, contacting his friends everywhere every day, playing the piano, listening to music, watching songs and dances, writing poems, and then boasting and promoting Taishan Liu Xuanda. The good effect shocked Lu Su. A celebrity vigorously publicized how Mount Tai was, and soon a large number of scribes appeared in the entire north to advocate how benevolent Liu Bei was, and then after Chen Shi pressed Jizhou, Liu Bei was abruptly advocated as the best candidate to support the Han dynasty. This fame is rising. Even Liu Bei himself is a little embarrassed, but it is strange to see that look unhappy. Now it is not famous all over the world, at least Liu Xuanda of Taishan is already famous in the Central Plains. Chapter 146. This perspective is still very important. After all, now even Lu Su and Liu Yi have a blue eye for this person's ability, and brushing reputation is not something you can brush by saying that you can brush it, but this one is like hanging up, and you can brush it when you say it. Of course, this also has the reason why Liu Yang has a better personality. In addition to being more romantic and likes to compete with literati, other aspects can be said to be no different from Jian Yong, and he is extremely self-aware, does not understand political affairs, and does not make random suggestions even if he is in a high position. Of course, words like this kind of spraying military control are completely feverish, otherwise this one belongs to the typical "I'll just take a look, don't talk, you are free." Because of this, Lu Su brought this guy to show that the brothers value you very much, and have time to brush the reputation of the brothers. After Liu Yang shut up, everyone looked at Chen Shi, hoping that Chen Shi could give a solution. This matter seemed very tricky to them, and according to Chen Shi's magical means before, it could probably be solved. Let's select the officials. Now all the officials inserted in Qingju have been promoted to 1 level, registered as official officials, and the officials are reselected. Chen Shi thought for a while and said, "The question is where to select. It is estimated that it is not enough for all of us literate people in Taishan to go to Qingju." Lu Su couldn't laugh or cry. If you can be selected, what do you Chen Zichuan do? What do you want to be literate? It's just a selection of minor officials. Xiang, you are also an official who handled Qingju affairs before. Let's talk about it. The main situation in Qingju now. Chen Shi said casually, and then asked Liu Yi by name. Is there a good way? Is there really a suitable way? The vision of 2,000 years beyond the times is no joke, and he has a way to deal with this kind of thing. The main thing is that there are not enough officials. Liu Yi said honestly, he didn't think much about it this time, so he answered a very stupid answer. Chen Shi covered his forehead, turned his head to look at Lu Su, and his eyes were almost spoken. I gave you a great wise man, and you brought it like this? Ahem, Xiang, Zichuan means to ask you, what problem has become the current situation between the people of Qingju now? Lu Su was a little embarrassed and quickly explained to Liu Yi. Oh, most of the people in Qingju are because of the land. Customs and hatred are the 3 situations that cause such and such chaos, and each situation has 3 or 5 kinds of triggers, and there are 3 or 5 situations. In short, it is very troublesome. Liu Yi said with a little headache. He was also dizzy from these things. Otherwise, I wouldn't have answered that kind of answer before. Isn't this enough? It's just about 30 situations. How to deal with each one? Xiang, you have no problem. Chen Shi asked speechlessly. There were only about 20 situations in total. It can actually be like this. Those are not problems. I can come up with 50 ways to deal with each one. Enough for any situation. The question is those below are not. No, You say this is okay? Liu Yi was originally a little crazy, but his brain turned as he spoke, and then looked at Chen Shi in surprise. Well, it's so simple. You can do it by just finding some people. The yellow turban refugees have so few demands. Just stuff some people to get it. You have been tossing for so long, I really feel helpless for you. Chen Shi sighed and said, You Liu Xiang is full of wisdom and won't think about what to do. Wouldn't you make a bunch of people who can handle these things? You have so many methods. Just tell them all and then follow the steps. Liu Yi and Lu Su looked at each other. Both felt that this method was very fresh, but when they thought about it, it seemed that this method could really work. The biggest demands of the yellow turban refugees were only a few situations, and the degree of universality was basically the same as 1. These problems could be solved in minutes for Liu Yi, and it took a day to think about it in any possible situation, and then distribute it. And find some people to solve it. Alas, requisition of small officials. Officials need both virtue and ability. Small officials can do whatever they want. Their power is not big enough, even if the party that causes the disaster will not have much impact, and there is also the suppression of the officials. It is impossible to have too many problems. Xiang, you and Zijin go and write a book, write out all the possible situations in Qingzhou's governance, and then write down the solutions, and then print them out, and give each of the 100 or so officials a copy. Chen Shi casually handed over this seemingly small task to Lu Su and Liu Yi, and he dared to guarantee that according to Liu Yi's brain, the workload of this task would rise. Okay. Lu Su and Liu Yi nodded. This was indeed a good way. As for the minor officials, they are directly recruited in Qingzhou, regardless of whether they are literate or not. As long as they claim to be able to do it, let him take office, and after a month of investigation, they will continue if there is no problem, and if there is a problem, they will be removed, and those who are serious will be killed. Oh, by the way, remember to ask the officials to teach them how to deal with various situations. And by the way, let the officials pay attention. Chen Shi said coldly, killing has been a bit easy recently, but sometimes it is true that not killing is not enough for civilians to be angry. It's okay, Xiang, and I will start to make it now. Take out things within 3 days. You ask the craftsman to print them within 2 days, and we will solve the matter within 10 days. Lu Su is also resolute, but he also feels that the intensity of work is not great. After all, there is Liu Yi who thinks about everything, and his existence is to judge where to change to what strategy, which is his strength. No problem. Chen Shi said nonchalantly, craftsmen don't have much to do, even if it's not big enough to line up an extra shift, what's the big deal? Anyway, he just moves his mouth, and he does things below. As for Liu Yang, this guy invited celebrities Liu Shi, Wu Fan, and Zhao Die to drink and play the piano at public expense today, and then spend some time climbing Mount Tai. He even reported the budget of the funds he wanted to spend, and his life was infinitely good. However, according to the situation of Hua Xiong's message back, soon there will be a big celebrity in Mount Tai. But how to deal with Sai Yang, who was brought back? This problem is so serious that there is no way to deal with it. Just now Sai Yang is enough to make people unable to start with his father's reputation, not to mention that this is still a woman. It is really troublesome to bring it to Mount Tai. Maybe because of the collection of books from the CAI family before, Liu Bei still needs to meet Miss CAI. TSK. The celebrities of the Three Kingdoms period didn't live too well. Chen Shi walked away with government affairs in his arms, while thinking about whether to get himself the aura of a celebrity. In other words, only celebrities can wander around the territory of various princes and receive excellent treatment. Chapter 147 Cut down my loyalty with one knife. Chen Shi held a stack of manuscripts, planning to go back to deal with it, although his government affairs were almost non-equal to nothing. But in order to promote harmony between civil servants, Chen Shi still hugged a stack of manuscripts and prepared to go back. Inexplicably being jealous is not a good thing. To Liu Yang is so leisurely, with public funds to drink and blow the wind. I don't know how many times I have been blackmailed by Guo, and the brothel also asks for money. Chen Shi was blocked by a wall before he took 2 steps, moved 2 steps to the left, slid 2 steps to the right, did not go around, jumped back and glared at Shu Chu. Zhongkong, what do you want to do? Don't get in the way. The Lord asks the military division to go to the residence to see it. Shu Chu said angrily. What's the matter? Chen Shi asked curiously, and after opening his mouth, he remembered that Shu Chu would never say anything. I don't know. Shu Chu said honestly. Who is that? Oh, Wan Yuliang, go and hand over this stack of manuscripts to Feng Xiao. I remember that you are the captain of Feng Xiao's bodyguard. Remember to let him drink less, and if he goes to the brothel, remember not to let him stay overnight, just carry it back. Chen Shi stared left and right, and finally saw an acquaintance, so he gave all the stacks of manuscripts in his hand to the other party. Anyway, Guo was fine. Hey! Wan Yuliang replied loudly. It was still very surprising that Chen Shi could know his name, and after taking the manuscript, he quickly went to find Guo, who was already lying in the Guo mansion. In fact, as the captain of the bodyguard, his fate was connected to his immediate boss, so if Guo could mix better, it would be very helpful to him, so he was still very happy to be able to do work for Guo. Let's go, and take a look. Chen Shi waved and then followed, quite curious in his heart what happened to Liu Bei, the previous Qingzhou incident. How to say it was also a big event, but there was no auditor, and now he was called to go. Is he eating barbecue with Guan Yu and Zhong Fei? Shu Chu walked to the gate and stopped to the left, and Chen Shi walked forward to the inner courtyard by himself. Some hesitant stood at Liu Bei's door and wondered, and before entering, he could feel the oppressive atmosphere in Liu Bei's house. Zichuan, come in for me. Liu Bei may have also heard Chen Shi's footsteps, and said in a low tone. Chen Shi pushed open the door and saw that the whole room was in disarray, bookshelves, tables, and chairs were all cut down, and pens, ink, paper and inkstone fell to the ground. Liu Bei's favorite white porcelain cup was directly smashed to pieces, while Liu Bei's sword, which was the perpetrator, was half cut on the pillar and half thrown on the ground. Zichuan, just find a place to sit. Look at this. Liu Bei decadently leaned against the wall and sat on the floor. Chen Shi looked at Liu Bei's decadent expression, and was stunned. When did Liu Bei, who was known as more and more frustrated, also became like this? What happened? The woman he liked was robbed. Casually glanced at the bamboo slip. Chen Shi also covered his forehead. Liu Xie, can you still be more angry? Do you know that if you do this once, it will be enough for those who are loyal to the Han dynasty to despair of you? You are self-destructing the Great Wall. Although Cao Mengde had Zhong Yao, a senior informant, to report, the Chamber of Commerce under Mizhu was not vegetarian. Although there was no senior informant and the distance was a little farther away, Liu Bei also got this information a few hours later. Chen Shi didn't speak, threw the bamboo slip casually, and just sat on the ground. He knew that Liu Bei had something to say. Han Qianzi, this is Han Qianzi. Has he forgotten the majesty of the Son of Heaven? Did he forget that his words and deeds were an example for the world? Doesn't he know how hard his actions will hit us? Liu Bei roared. How could I, Liu, have such a heartless king? Will you die if you say a word? Li Yu and Guo Sai dare to hurt a hair of your hair, and I, Liu Xuande, will be the first to send troops. Unlike Cao Cao, who did not dare to say it, the current Liu Bei is a Han clan member who has been appraised by the Zhongjing, and scolding the emperor is not a big deal, not to mention that this time the emperor is at fault first, and he scolds if he scolds. Chen Shi didn't answer, and Liu Bei scolded that it was Liu Bei's business. In the era of the Han dynasty, any Han clan member had the hope of coming to power and becoming an emperor, and this group of people maintain the orthodoxy of the Han dynasty. There is also the maintenance of those who are loyal to the Han dynasty. To put it bluntly, they are defending themselves. In short, this time Liu Xie's behavior has made Liu Bei feel angry. Does Liu Bei have any ambitions? There definitely is. But the current situation belongs to the Han clan that he himself has been recognized, and because of such an identity, he jumped from a leopard to a prince, and instantly became the lord of the world after taking Qingju. This is also why Liu Bei can remember that the first thing after development was to pay tribute to the Son of Heaven. After the appearance of white porcelain, he chose the best of them, and his favorite was sent to the Son of Heaven. Not that he had no ambition, but Liu Bei felt that he had been deeply favored by the emperor, and if he asked for extravagance, his own conscience would be a little unbearable. And I heard that the Son of Heaven was smart, and after killing Dong Zhuo, Liu Bei couldn't sleep with excitement, and he felt that the appearance of the revival of the Han dynasty had been revealed, and he worked hard to be the Duke of Zhu, which was much more reliable than others. As a result, Liu Bei had just established the concept of shedding every drop of blood for the Han family and becoming a loyal Han clan member, and as a result, less than half a month later, Han Qianzi, as a representative of the Han family, directly cut down the small sapling named Zhongzhen that Liu Bei had just grown with an axe. Isn't this to force Liu Bei to death? Liu Bei was confused. He felt that his entire ideal was shattered. He was not worth it. Liu Xie seriously hurt him, and then he didn't know what to do. To support the Han dynasty? Liu Xie is still worth his continued efforts. Liu Bei, who had just transformed himself into a pure loyal minister, has not yet recovered after being violently impacted. After thinking that the ideal of being Duke Zhu was shattered, Liu Bei, who had not turned his mind, went crazy, holding back his fire in his room, and suppressed his anger after cutting off the sword. Zichuan, tell me, what should I do? What's this? Xian Digong's goal is to support the Han dynasty, and my goal is to intimidate the four directions of China. Is it necessary to care about those? Just do our own thing. The Son of Heaven may not necessarily represent the Han dynasty, let alone China. Just do what we should do. No matter which one we are, shouldn't we first set the Central Plains and sweep the world? Chen Shi glanced at Liu Bei, not to mention that this emperor is a waste. Even if the emperor dies, don't the people still want to live? Liu Bei stared at Chen Shi and looked at it again and again, and then sat on the ground decadently. Zichuan, you don't understand. You don't understand my mood. Do you know, I once fantasized about becoming the Son of Heaven. I am the blood of the Han Emperor. I have this qualification. But when I came to this position step by step, the imperial grace I received on me made me unable to give birth to a peep on the throne at all. Chapter 148. Their Ideals. Chen Shi was a little dumbfounded. What is going on with Liu Bei? He actually came up with such words. What is it called being deeply favored by the emperor, and he can't afford to spy on the throne? You're not such a person, okay? You have ascended the throne in history, and now you can't afford to be greedy. This is a joke. Liu Bei looked at the stunned Chen Shi, sighed and explained, whether it is ambition or ambition, I have it, but since I sat in this position step by step, I have not suffered any twists and turns. Dao Gongzu, Kongwonju are all helping me, and the power of the Han Dynasty is still protecting me, even if I was dissatisfied, but it still gave me a chance.
Zichuan, have I fought for anything? Liu Bei asked rhetorically. No. Chen Shi thought for a moment and said.
Yes, I didn't fight for anything, but because of my surname, my bloodline got so many things. Maybe before I experienced the whipping of the postal supervisor, I would have taken these things for granted. But after experiencing that incident, I understood that in addition to ability, this world also needs the shadow of the ancestors. Liu Bei's face was bitter, and even some words did not reach the meaning, but Chen Shi still understood the meaning contained in Liu Bei's words. Liu Bei's most painful place is here. Obviously he has been working hard, but in the end he still can't escape the need to rely on his ancestors. And now what is even more painful is that he obviously relied on his ancestors, but he wanted to spy on the direct line left by his ancestors. Even if the other party is at fault, Liu Bei feels that others have that qualification, but he doesn't, because he feels that as a branch, the clan has given him a meal, and now the legitimate son of the clan is at fault. Should he attack that legitimate son and then let himself sit in the position of the legitimate son? He can't get over it in conscience. Chen Shi smiled bitterly one after another. He completely understood what was going on. Unlike Liu Bei in history, this time Liu Bei did not experience upheaval and displacement. In his previous life, except for the title of imperial uncle, Liu Bei did not enjoy any benefits of the royal family. Even if there were some loyal ministers of the Han Dynasty before, they had already been exhausted in such a long time. It can be said that in addition to an empty name, Liu Bei was almost self-made and did not owe anything to the Han Dynasty, so Liu Bei was qualified to ascend to the throne in the spirit of the royal family in the world, and now the royal family saved him Liu Xuande, so he ascended to the throne without pressure. This life. Liu Bei has the clan documents and the benefits of the royal family, and has grown rapidly from a penniless little deflated 3 to a large prince who holds a state and rules millions of people, and even has a title, and it can be said that he has almost everything that a member of the royal family should have. Although there is his struggle and Chen Shi's plan, if it were not for Dao Qian, a loyal minister of the Han Dynasty, Liu Bei would not have had the opportunity to rise so quickly. Because of this, Liu Bei felt that he owed too much to the Han Dynasty, and the situation of the Han Dynasty was not too bad, and there was still hope for salvation if he worked hard. So his conscience easily suppressed his ambition, and instead he wanted to be the Duke of Zhu. The emperor was too far away, pacifying the world, and supporting the Han Dynasty. This was Liu Bei's previous dream, and there was nothing I thought about as the son of heaven. Because of this, he was deeply hit by Liu Xie's actions. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a good situation for Liu Bei for Liu Xie to do this kind of thing? According to the principle that the Han Dynasty's clan relatives are likely to ascend to the throne, isn't Liu Bei, the hero of the world blown out by Liu Yang, the best candidate? After figuring out all this, Chen Shi knew how to deal with it. Xuande Gong is willing to listen to me. Chen Shi said with a smile. Zichuan has something to say. Liu Bei said calmly, after venting for such a while, although Liu Bei was a little annoyed and said something he shouldn't have said. But the whole person is much calmer. Xuande Gong, how did the ancestral shadow come from? Chen Shi looked at Liu Bei with a smile in his eyes. It was Gaozu who overthrew the tyranny of the Qin dynasty and competed with King Xiong to leave grace for us and other descendants. Liu Bei said with some fanaticism. Then for Gaozu, his descendants are not far away. Chen Shi said with a smile. You can't say that. Liu Bei frowned. Okay, then another topic. For Gaozu, what did he hope the Han dynasty would look like? Chen Shi continued to ask. Endless, passed down from generation to generation. Liu Bei paused when he said this, and he also knew that this was unreliable. What about hope for each generation? Chen Shi asked with a smile. Liu Bei did not answer, but his eyes flashed with a hint of brilliance. Do the ancestors hope that the descendants will be stronger than the next generation, or do they hope that the descendants will only rely on their own shade to live? The smile on Chen Shi's face became clearer and clearer. Liu Bei did not answer, but the whole person's decadent spirit was swept away. Xuande Gong, no ancestor wants his descendants to live only on their own glory, and they have laid a solid foundation for the glory created by their descendants, just to support the offspring for a longer period of time when they are really mediocre one day, so that they can wait until the day of resumption. Chen Shi said slowly. Liu Bei stood up and stretched out his hand towards Chen Shi. Let us create more glory for our descendants, lay a more solid foundation for them, and let us surpass our ancestors. The last sentence Liu Bei almost squeezed out of his teeth in an extremely difficult tone, but after the words came out, the whole person seemed to be full of strength. The ancestors please forgive the disrespect of the descendants, and now there is Liu Xuande after King Jing of Zhongshan is willing to swear to the heavens. If I can't surpass the past dynasties, I will definitely not spy on the artifact, the ancestors will learn from it. Liu Bei swore to the sky in high spirits, and the firmness in those eyes made Chen Shi feel that Liu Bei was playing for real.
Zichuan.
At this moment, Liu Bei seemed to be shrouded in a layer of solemnity, and stretched out his hand again. Tell me your ideals. Don't say that you want to be the head of the Chen family. Your ability is definitely the best in the world, and the position of the head of the Chen family is just a bag for you.
Tell me your ideals, Zichuan.
Chen Shi was stunned for a moment, then put away his hippie smiling face, and for the first time there was no disgust, and put his hand on Liu Bei's hand. My ideal, eternity. China will always stand at the peak of the universe. Whether it is the past or the future, we can only make people look up. The people have no worries about food and clothing. There is a way to promotion, the wealth of the world, the wisdom of the world, the virtue of the world.
Not for the family, and everyone can rely on his efforts to get an equivalent return. Okay. This is the Chen Zichuan I know.
Liu Bei laughed, and then turned his head to look at Chen Shi. Zichuan, swear, one day I will write your oath today on the family motto of my Liu family. I, Liu Xuanda, will definitely surpass my ancestors, and my Liu Xuanda is loyal to the Han family, not a certain person.
Chapter 149. Liu Xuanda realized.
Chen Shi was devastated when he came out of Liu Bei's house. When did he become so second in command? Could it be that people are not in vain?
What a joke. Chen Shi was depressed.
Pit, Liu Bei, you are crazy. You actually took me, and as a result, it was infected to me, making me so second, you bastard. Chen Shi had a dark face, exuding an aura of not allowing strangers to enter, and scolded Liu Bei in his heart. On the other hand, Liu Bei felt good about himself, feeling that his previous courage simply made his current self tremble, and the words of his ancestors were all spoken, and sure enough, heroes still have to have a fever in their brains occasionally to complete it. Sure enough, Zichuan is not such an underestimating person. How can a wizard be like this for the position of a family head? If there is only such a little pattern, wouldn't it be a waste of that talent?
Like-minded, like-minded.
Liu Bei laughed. Today he took Chen Shi crazy can be regarded as a surprise. Sure enough, no matter how lazy Chen Shi is, but his mind, his ambitions, and his pattern are enough to be comparable to everyone in the world. Even if it is the kind of words that surpass their ancestors, Chen Shi can bear it. Chen Shi didn't know what Liu Bei expected from him, but even if he knew, he was still entangled. He still felt uncomfortable. Once the scene of Liu Bei holding his hand and then the second aura raging appeared in his mind, Chen Shi felt that he should recuperate well. Chen Zichuan was sick, although he didn't know what kind of disease it was, but he hid at home every day and didn't come out. The whole person was wilted, lying motionless on the bed, and even Fan Jian came over and continued to lie on the bed with his head covered, saying that he was lazy.
Husband, get up, don't stay in bed anymore, you've been lying in bed for many days.
Fan Jian, a middle school student, pulled Chen Shi's arm and pulled it out, but unfortunately it had no effect at all, and Chen Shi was motionless on the bed.
Zichuan, Big Brother ordered me to take you out of the city. Zhong Fei's loud voice shook the dust on the beams.
I'm so tired. Third brother has something to do with Zijing.
Chen Shi's weak voice came from under the quilt.
To say that it was because I felt ashamed before, but now Chen Shi has a feeling that resting is so comfortable, and lying in bed all day is also a life, a good life.
Madam.
Zhong Fei hugged his fist at Fan Jian. Please give in a little bit, madam, there is something important today.
I have to ask Zichuan, so I ask my wife to forgive me.
The general doesn't have to be like this. I have long had the intention of letting my husband go out for activities, but...
Fan Jian sighed as he spoke.
Wrapped on my Lao Zhong, isn't it just basking in the sun?
I will remember taking Zichuan out every day in the future.
Zhong Fei slapped his chest with a thud, like a drum.
Then thank you, General Zhong.
Oh, by the way, I still have some drinks at home. I'll go and bring them to General Zhong. Fan Jian chuckled, then turned around and left, asking Zhong Fei to take Chen Shi away.
Hey, third brother, what's the matter? I'm sleeping.
It's not a good thing to disturb people's dreams. Chen Shi lifted the quilt and poked his head out to ask, so he wouldn't give Zhong Fei an excuse to wrap himself up and carry it out, let alone give him the opportunity to carry it with the bed.
Zijian is back.
Zhong Fei said excitedly. Hua Xiong, the guy who had a great appetite for him, was back.
He has another fighting partner.
Oh, I arrived at the border of Mount Tai 10 days ago, and I always feel that something is wrong with this etiquette.
Chen Shi stood up and said.
In fact, Chen Shi doesn't know what's going on. Liu Bei was still on the fire before, although he was extinguished by Chen Shi, but when he turned around, he heard that an angel had come, and Liu Bei suddenly became angry again, and he released it in one sentence. He said that he and a group of officials would fast for 9 days to serve the power of heaven. In fact, it was entirely because Liu Bei felt that now that the angel was coming, he couldn't suppress his anger, and Liu Bei, who had not experienced many setbacks, was still far from being invisible. Instead of letting everyone in the world know that they are dissatisfied with Liu Xie with a black face at that time, it is better to play a slippery head, give a few days to extinguish the fire, and then hello everyone. Well, this is the so-called fasting, that is, talking about it. As for Liu Yi, a member of the Han clan, after learning about Wang Yun's situation that day, he was also choked enough, and he understood Liu Bei's current mood. At this time, the more popular the guy was, the more loyal he was, and he was afraid that the kind of guy who didn't say a word, the kind of guy who was already disheartened, or directly had a rebellious mentality. Zhong Fei patted Chen Shi on the shoulder. How can he say Zhong Fei? Sometimes carefree, sometimes careful, so it was obvious that he also knew what was going on this time. But he didn't ask Liu Bei, because Liu Bei's choice could represent him at any time. Let's go, since it's Zijian coming back, let's go greet it. Have you done the accommodation prepared for Miss Cai and the two friends? And there is no problem with furniture, decoration, or anything like that. After Chen Shi got up and put on his shoes, he stood up straight, put on his robe casually, and turned his head to ask. These are all ready. Zhong Fei nodded and said. That's good, you go and inform others, I'll get my hair done and I'm here. As for the spirits, you drink less, I didn't give you a quick joke, drinking too much of that thing may kill people. Chen Shi signaled that Zhong Fei could leave, and there was no need to take him to Liu Bei for dressing up or something, he would do it at home. After Zhong Fei left, after Chen Lan helped Chen Shi get his hair accessories ready, Chen Shi took a car to the outside of the city, ready to welcome Hua Xiong and his party, saying that he already knew his official position and title, and now he just went to take a photo and get a seal or something. The announcement of the imperial decree was only for a while, and everyone's thoughts were not on the official position. After all, the Han dynasty is unstable now, and the accurate statement is that even the salary cannot be paid. Even if the official position is issued, you need to be able to take office, otherwise, it is just a piece of paper. Liu Bei maintained his respect for the imperial decree on his face, but in fact he didn't know what he thought. It is estimated that Liu Bei is loyal to the Han dynasty is no problem, but loyal to the current emperor. Chen Shi knows that it is unreliable. The new general of Zhendong, the Marquis of Fanyang Pavilion Liu Xuanda's previous words, although they are full of a strong atmosphere of middle two, but they also unabashedly show Liu Bei's dissatisfaction with the current emperor, hurting people too hard. It can be said that this time Liu Bei came not to greet the angel, let alone to greet Miss Cai, but to greet the two friends that Chen Shi had been talking about. Liu Bei has now realized that in order to fulfill his lofty ideals, there must be talents, and the more high-end the talents, the better, each more of his wishes can go further. And Chen Shi himself is so powerful, then his friends will not be too weak, since he is so talented, then he will not meet the title of Liu Xuanda, the hero of the Central Plains. Chapter 150 It's all Liu Xuanda's fault. Chen Shi didn't know what Liu Bei was thinking. If he knew that according to Liu Bei's previous performance, it was estimated that he had to give the title of the second hero of the middle school, but according to Liu Bei's mind at that time, even Chen Shi stretched out his hand in a daze, which had to be put on others and had to burst into tears, bow his head and bow. Which shows that the breath of the second middle school is almost equivalent to the breath of the king. Liu Bei personally helped Joshu and Liu out of the car. For a little deflated third like him, who was born in the lower class, he had never experienced the education of the family. But the hero who rose to a high position did not have the sense of distance from the noble family. Well, the simple way is that Liu Bei can skim Chen Shi on the car without caring, and then drive by himself. As for Yuan Shao, even if the other party is talented, he will not do this kind of identity thing. However, compared to the current status of Yuan Shao and Liu Bei, the difference is not too much, so Liu Bei's style is indeed very benevolent in the eyes of too many scholars. Liu Bei may have noticed the change in his identity, but this identity has changed too quickly. Liu Bei has not had time to get used to his identity. He has become the rumored hero of the Central Plains. More than 20 years of courtesy, generous and benevolent. The habit of treating people with kindness has not had time to reverse. He has sat on a high position, and the vast majority of people in the world need to look up to him. At the beginning, Liu Bang did not correct his habits for so many years, and in the end, he still left a sentence of Gaozu in the history books. Whether good or bad, it only proved one thing. That is, the country is easy to change, and it is difficult to change, and now Liu Bei is also in this situation. Habitually receiving scholars in person, habitually cooking pot meat without finishing, giving some to all the civil servants in office. Liu Bei may not know how benevolent his habits are in the eyes of others. Being in a high position and honoring the corporal, how valuable is this to the princes, the yellow turbans out of Qingju to eat? The first to bear the brunt is Mount Tai, but from east to west there is not a scribe who abandoned his official position and fled. I have to say that Liu Bei gave the banquet at the beginning, and the original gift was sent out of the city. Bowing down is a great stimulus for these scholars from poor backgrounds, and the scholars die for their confidence. That bow, how many scholars are willing to repay with death? Not to mention that the yellow turbans did not attack the city at that time. Even if the yellow turbans besieged the city, these people would swear to the death. They are directly Liu Bei's hardcore. Yongju Li Wenru. Jiao Wenhe from Liangju once met Duke Xuande. Li Yu and Jiao Shu bowed to Liu Bei. Alas, with the courage of this corporal of the courtesy, even the scribes who have never heard of it are willing to treat each other with courtesy. Is it the hero of the Central Plains? It may not be impossible. Li Yu watched from a distance when Liu Bei greeted the angel. Using certain metaphysical techniques to observe Liu Bei, his body was full of purple energy, and the five-colored emblem flowed slightly, but there was no dragon and tiger shape. Just floating around Liu Bei scatteredly. Please start. Zichuan has mentioned the two in front of me many times. I wonder if you two are willing to accept. Liu Bei seemed a little confused, and asked directly here, if the other party refused in front of so many people, Liu Bei would be ashamed. Xuande Gong is so confident? Li Yu asked curiously. No, because I'm not afraid of being rejected by you. I've been rejected too many times. But I've still come to this point. I, Liu Xuande, are indomitable, and I won't give up. Liu Bei said powerfully. Thank you for your kindness, and the scholars are willing to fill in the gaps for Xuande Gong. Li Xiong nodded, which was a recognition of Liu Bei's statement. Where's Wenhe? Liu Bei looked at Jioshu and asked. I want to ask a question. After Jioshu thought for a while, since Li Yu has fallen to Liu Bei, it means that he must make a choice today, although he is optimistic about Liu Bei, but optimism is not the same as joining. After all, for Jioshu, his primary goal is to ensure his personal safety. Wenhe, may I ask? Liu Bei instantly understood that Jioshu was optimistic about him, but for some reasons he was not satisfied, and this problem was the key, and it might become what Chen Shi said before the last straw that broke the camel's back, so Liu Bei had to be cautious. Whose fault is the world in today's situation? Jioshu said calmly. As soon as the words fell, Liu Yi angrily rebuked, How dare I do this? Xiang, step back. Although Liu Bei was a little unhappy in his heart, he still drank Liu Yi. He knew this question, but he was unwilling to answer. There were too many people who were wrong. The royal family, eunuchs, clearstreams, relatives, foreign ministers, and the family who dared to say that they were right, since they were all wrong. How to answer? Xuande Gong, let me answer this question. It is difficult to answer the answer that Jiao Wenhe wants, but I know the answer that the people of the world want in the future. Chen Shi saw that Liu Bei was extremely entangled, and he had no choice but to stand up. There was no way. It was simply deadly to rely on Liu Bei to answer this question. Wenhe, you can allow Zichuan to reply on my behalf. Liu Bei was overjoyed, and then reacted to look at Jioshu and asked. Yes, I also want to see what answer Chen Zichuan will give me. Jioshu nodded and said. Zichuan, it's over to you. Liu Bei patted Chen Shi on the shoulder. This question is very simple. The wrong thing is Xuande Gong. Chen Shi said without any pressure at all. The fault lies in Xuande? Liu Bei himself was a little dumbfounded, and everyone who heard the answer was dumbfounded. Why is it all Liu Bei's fault that the world is like this? What do you understand? Jioshu said expressionlessly. Xuande Gong was born too late, and his strength is not strong enough, otherwise the world is already peaceful. So it is Xuande Gong's fault, and the fault is that Xuande Gong has no ability to sweep the world, and he has no ability to make the common people's food and clothing safe. They will tell you the answer. Chen Shi stared at Jioshu and said unhurriedly. As expected of Chen Zichuan, I am not satisfied with this answer, but I plan to wait 20 years to ask the world this question. Jioshu pulled a smile from the corner of his mouth, nodded towards Liu Bei, and then bowed his hands and said, I have seen the Lord. Okay, there are 2 more conspirators today. Liu Bei laughed and said, Thank you Zichuan, if you weren't here, I wouldn't be able to answer. It doesn't have to be like this. Xuande Gong just needs to remember that now the faults in the world are all in Xuande Gong. Chen Shi shook his head, and then warned. Chen Shi would not say, he deliberately answered like this. Jioshu's heart wanted the answer was definitely not the one he said, but the answer he said before revealed the meaning was enough to make everyone think. Liu Xuande dared to bear all the faults of his predecessors, then his mind and ambitions would be high. These are worth thinking about by those present. It is not so easy to surpass your ancestors. First of all, you have to dare to bear all the faults of your ancestors. Only if you bear these, the world will admit you. Chen Shi thought silently. Chen Shi dares to guarantee that Liu Bei has never thought about these problems, and even the entire words of surpassing the ancestors, more than 90% of them are feverish in the head. There is no complete plan at all, and they don't even know how to start. Since you Liu Bei has spoken, then I should drive you to the road you want.